What is going on, everyone? Episode number 6, Insert Revolution podcast. He's Steve. I'm Dave.
What's going on, everybody?
Hoping we can pump off last week's momentum. That was a pretty good episode. I like that. We had a lot of interaction and seemed to be, again, not tons comparative to maybe super popular podcasts, but when you have as many as we had and then as many people interacting and asking questions as we did, that made it super easy. And I didn't want to jump off at all, but it's like 4 a.m. comes real early for me. But it was I think our best episode yet.
Oh, no, I would agree. A lot of fun. He's Bob.
That's true.
It was, I don't want to call them controversial topics, but, at the same time, it was a lot of interaction, a lot of great conversation. And, to a certain degree, it's not that we planned on having those conversations, but it's one of those in which it made for an interesting episode and great conversation. What's going on, Vinny?
What's up, Vinny?
And before I forget, yes, our sponsor is the same as last week, but at least this is the NFL kickoff, and it is football season, so.
How much of that have you been watching or paying attention to, Steve?
To be honest, it's been sporadic at best. I watched quite a bit of the Monday night game, of course, with Denver, and because they started so late, I knew I wasn't going to finish watching it all, and then so I kind of caught up the following morning, which I do sometimes. And ever since Peyton retired, we don't get a lot of Broncos games aired here. When Peyton was playing, it wasn't uncommon to always have the Denver game here locally. And then I kind of paid attention a little bit to Sunday's game, and then, of course, finding out Locke went out. Our season's done. I mean, they signed Blake Bortles, but I don't know. I think my season's done. I'll be happy with 6-10 for this year, to be honest.
Yeah, they're down Von Miller, and he's talked about trying to return later, but again, that doesn't seem like a realistic thing. Cortland Sutton, I think, tore his ACL. He's done.
Yep, he's done.
Locke is out for anywhere between 2 to 6 weeks, but again, that shoulder, when that's your throwing shoulder. Good luck. It's probably, if not all the year, you're coming back to like the end of November.
Lindsey's out for a bit.
Could be that time of pretty much curtains if you're 3-4 wins by then, and in that division.
Oh yeah, with KC. LA's or Las Vegas is doing good. I mean, they look really good. But Lindsey's out too with turf toe.
Mm-hmm.
So it is what it is. I've been around long enough to where I stick with them regardless. I'm not if they win one game, I'm not going to jump on the. Hopefully, we don't have any Cowboys fans in here. Well, not that I care, but we're going to the Super Bowl, and then the next game they lose and they get their ass kicked. It's like, oh, they freaking suck and blah, blah. No, it sucks. I'm a fan. Good times, bad times. Do I want to see them do better? Absolutely. But at the same time, these last few years have been tough. But it happens. You win a Super Bowl, unless you're Shady Brady and Bill Belichick. It's kind of hard to contend with those. Just saying. What's going on? It's not a sore subject for me by any stretch of the imagination. I was super happy to see KC finally win a championship. Granted, they had won one before, but it was before, the NFL was, before they were part of the NFL. But I think they're going to be the heavy favorites this year. I mean, hands down, they got the skill set, man. And it doesn't matter how many points their defense gives up. If their offense keeps scoring points, it's a moot point.
This week for them will be big, though. I think they got Baltimore on Monday night, so that'll be – I know it's only week 3, but I think, again, depending on what happens, I think Baltimore, the defense looks good. Running game with Dobbins, some young legs in there. They've looked a lot better. Lamar Jackson, I've got him for fantasy football in my one league. I'm 0-2 though, so that I don't take any advice from me. It's just like this guy here, Bob Dude said, and that's what's going to happen without a full training camp and in preseason. You're not going to have 4 to 6 weeks of workouts and I won't say hard hitting, but as you get into games, in the preseason games, you at least have game speed and you can acclimate yourself to competition at game speed. Now you're just going through a run through or just like 2-hand touch and practice. Now you get in the game. It's a world of difference. And we're going to see that in pretty much all sports. We saw that in baseball. People dropping like flies. It's like you can't just expect people, even world-class athletes, who some, again, even if you're training in the off season and you have an extended now off season, they're just not gonna. You have to have those games, those preseason games, and the spring training. You have to have all that stuff to keep your body used to the contact and then the pace of play.
Oh, absolutely. And then there's quite a bit of articles and stuff out there. Was the lack of preseason a true detriment to the athletes and the speed of the game and everything else? And there's people who can argue both sides, but the fact that there was kind of a late start to all of this as it is, and even in practice, early on, it's like you kind of alluded to, it's almost like a 2-hand touch type situation, and they're not really following the normal speed of the game. Mm-hmm. And even during past preseasons, they even had scrimmage games, which, simulate, of course, the whole aspect of the game. But with no preseason, and granted, most of your superstars, your starters, don't see really any game time until the second to last or the last preseason game, just to kind of get themselves acclimated with everything. You can't expect these guys to just be 100% in tip-top shape and not run the risk of getting hurt. This football season is going to be interesting just because of the number of superstars that are already out for the year. Mm-hmm. I mean, San Francisco took a freaking brutal hit. Denver has taken a hit. I know there's others, and I can't throw them off the top of my head, but it just, every time you turn around, you see inactive players. You see, when you watch like the feed at the bottom of the screen as you're watching a football game, so-and-so out, or questionable to return, so-and-so taken off the field on a cart. It's just like every freaking game you're going, holy shit, these guys are dropping like flies and they're in tip-top shape. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. It is crazy.
San Fran, they already had, Debo was out, D Ford, and then Richard Sherman.
No time. The Chargers are not going to win the Super Bowl. I'm so sorry.
That's not. I want them to, but no. And then this week, I think the new turf at whatever it's called, the new Meadowlands, I'll say. Garoppolo, Bosa's out for the year ACL. Yeah. Mostert was out. Solomon Thomas out for the year ACL. And they guess who they play next week or this week? Same spot. They play the Giants. Same field.
Oh, really?
So
Yikes.
I'm trying to think who's supposed to come back. Oh, Kittle. And I don't know. I can't remember. Is it not Schottenheimer? Who's the other? Shanahan. He's just like, no, I don't think he's coming back this week if we're playing there. And we just had half our team pretty much go
Dilapidated.
Yeah, it's like the Giants aren't going to pose pretty much any threats. So I think Nick Mullins can right the ship with Jordan Reed, and they can take apart the Giants. But yeah, it's been horrible. And then you have Tyrod Taylor. My Chargers have some reaction to some type of shot for whatever he had with his chest. Some kind of muscle thing was going on with his chest. He had some reaction to that. So Herbert comes in and shockingly does really well against the Chiefs.
I was going to ask, how did he do? I didn't. Usually, I pay attention to the final scores and I look at the stat lines just to kind of see how everybody did. Not that I play fantasy football anymore because that really took away the fun of watching football for me. But I didn't bother to do that after this Sunday. So,
and for me, not having the games live for TV with no cable, no satellite, I go to the NFL YouTube channel, and they've got like a 10-minute, 12-minute video package of the game. So I just sit there, I queue them all up, and most of the time it's a lot of stupid plays. Like, oh boy, this guy ran for 8 yards and a first down. Yeah, well, that's great. Can we find the happy medium between NFL primetime and this really long, worthless video? I mean, show like some big plays, show the injuries, show touchdowns.
Show the parts that everybody wants to see.
Yeah.
Who cares that somebody ran for 8 yards for a first down?
Oh, it's 39. They ran for 10 yards. Good. Great. But yeah, I watched that, and Herbert had one just cataclysmic error where he was rolling to his left. I don't know who he saw, if it was Allen or Williams. Triple covered, threw across his body back towards the center of the field from like the left sideline. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Do not do that. This isn't Oregon. You're not playing Pueblo State or something. You're playing NFL games. Remember that.
Yeah, there's only a few quarterbacks who can make that play though too.
Well, I mean, he's got a strong arm, but I mean, if it was like Lamar Jackson, again, Mahomes, somebody that's got just an absolute rifle, I don't even know if they get the free pass because it was triple coverage. I mean, this dude was literally in the Bermuda Triangle where. But they said it was the first QB to have a rushing and throwing touchdown in his debut since I think 1954.
Wow.
I think some Giants QB in 54 had it, and I'm like, well, I still remember Ryan Leaf did pretty well at Vanderbilt Stadium playing the Tennessee Oilers in '98 in his debut. So let's pump the brakes. I want to see the sample size can't be one game. It's got to be. Give me a few games. I mean, he did really well. I will give him that on pretty much a moment's notice because it was. I checked the box score and it's 14-6. I'm like, oh, what the hell's going on here? Taylor to Keenan Allen. It's like Herbert. Wow, I don't remember reading a single word about Taylor getting benched the whole week, and then watching the highlights. It's like, okay, man, at least they explained it to us or explained to me. But like, hey, he had some reaction to some chest muscle going all wonky, and I don't know if it was like a cortisone shot or what, but I mean, it just didn't agree because you could see him on the sideline. He was in some pain.
Was he?
So I don't know what's going to happen next. I think he's in there. After that performance, Taylor, I don't think he's coming back.
Well, I mean, they drafted him as their future. So, I mean, it's one of those in which, although it's not optimum, it's as good as time as any just to, get him in there and at least start getting, his feet wet and getting used to the first string offense and everything else, if that's their future. I mean, you don't draft a guy in the first round and not expect him to be the future of your franchise. So
it's not baseball where you have to, I want to keep him down in the minors for X amount of days to get like whatever, another year or two of arbitration. It's like, no, once you sign that contract, that clock ticks.
absolutely.
4 years or whatever it is, 3, 4 for the first rounders and the option, and then it's like, you better find out what you have, or a lot of people are losing their jobs real quick.
Absolutely.
Pick up anything on the radar? Still working towards the goal.
Still working towards the goal. It did end, but relisted immediately. So,
which is a first too.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of those in which it kind of buys a little bit more time because it's a 30-day listing.
Yeah.
There's a few things that TNT listed, of course, that you pointed out to me. I haven't gone and cross-referenced some of them against my checklist. Speaking of which, since we're here to talk about lists, it kind of is convenient, right? But anytime that guy lists, multiple options for TV, there's a lot of times in which I have to go cross-reference against my checklist because, there, as much as what I think I remember a lot of what I have, I don't want to go down that path of getting, pissed off because I ended up getting something cheap or expensive, either one,
mm-hmm.
and realize I already have it because, that pisses me off. So in those situations, I always do a quick cross-reference and check to see. He's got quite a few listed.
Well, that's I was like, I didn't want to tell you because I'm like, shit. Yeah, I know what you're working for, and I'm like, but I'm looking at the stuff on there. I'm like, there's a lot of stuff that, not like I look up Terrell Davis all the time, but I don't remember seeing a lot of these in his previous auctions. Oh,
yeah, and like I said, it's one of those in which I've got the ones that I think I need on the watch list. Some of them I even have on there that I'm almost 100% positive I have, but I'd rather have them there just to validate and verify to make sure in hopes that I can, maybe snag a few of them for, not too much and still be able to go towards the bigger one.
That's good, Vinny. Always nice to fill holes no matter what it is in the list. Big or small. And Clint, well, you got rid of your Hamels.
Thanks to all those. I know Dr. Exclusive. I know Cole Hamels fan. I know Ty. I know all of them made a comment on part 1. So conveniently done not long after, last week's podcast. I finally had a opportunity to make a video, like I said, with my wife working from home. It's too hard, so I have to she's got to be like running to the store or be at the neighbors or something along those lines to give myself the ample time in order to record a video. However, she is out of town this weekend. She's going with her dad and her sister for her sister's birthday. They rented a cabin a few hours away to go fishing. My wife loves to fish. So they'll actually be out of town this weekend. So I'll be able to get quite a few parts recorded. You guys may sit there and go, okay, so this is part 6, but yet he has the same shirt on. Well, that's because I'll be recording a lot of them over that time span. And I'm not changing my shirt.
No, that I had go back. I think it was two episodes. I wanted to get this I don't know what it would be, just old news, but it's something that I wanted to get last week that pertained to episode 4. Where do you rage buy after losing something? And one of the ones on my watch list, it's like, again, we're at times too complacent. I think with our watch list, if there's something you really want on there and there's something you look at and you're like, oh man, that's a pretty good price, and it's been one of those, like you said, an auction that's been relisted multiple times. I did that with a brodeur, and I'm like, okay, I can wait on this. I mean, nobody's bought it for the past 4 months. Somebody bought it. But at the same time, there's one that I had on my watch list way back in, I think, like April. I put it on there. And then I was like, again, nobody's touched it. Then the guy from the Czech Republic listed his stuff at the end of May, beginning of June, they ended. That one sold because he had one going off on auction. So I'm like, okay, I'll circle back and buy the other one. That one was already sold that exact night because there must have been 5, 6 of us bidding. One of the other people that lost binned that one. And that happened to like 3, 4 of the ones that night that I was like, I'll circle back to those. They were all gone. I'm like, okay. But again, learning the market and learning what stuff's going for, I was like, So this came up and it was like going to be $10, $12 more. So when I lost that one, the stamp of approval, die cut numbered to 100, which are gorgeous cards. I'm like, I need to get this because I don't want to lose it again. It's not a finite number of them, but at the same time, I think I'm like a 1 in 279 or 1 in 400 full. So I mean, it's not like it's a easy one to run across.
Right.
And so I hit it and I'm like, there. At least get one out of the way. And that helps the quote unquote sadness of losing those. That's not a monster card. The one I didn't win was out of 100. So I mean, realistically, I should be really upset about that because again, they're not popping up all the time. But at the same time, neither of those die cut masks from 96, 97. So I was just like, okay, I got a card I know I'm going to want. So I still feel very comfortable paying. Did I pay more than I would have in June? Yeah. But it isn't like a Soto Topps rookie where I paid, I don't know, $10 6 months, 8 months ago, and now those are whatever raw, where it's like,
Right.
well, not a justifiable, to me, multiplier. But, so again, I want to circle back to that because I knew I forgot that last week. I think I texted you the next day. And, fuck, I forgot to tell that, and that was pertinent information. That was perfect.
And there's the question from Bob last week that he texted you.
And I didn't write it down. God.
Well, it should be in your text message. Go find it.
I know, but if I go away from
but you're on your phone. I forget.
Yeah, if I went away from that. So.
And
Bob,
Vinny, so Vinny, I'm going to ask, do I need to go put it on? Does it feel different not having the hat on? I actually brush the hair. Does it feel weird not having the hat on?
And that's what I got to do this tomorrow is get a haircut. This is probably the longest it's been.
Yeah, in a while.
A long time. Because you can see a lot more of the gray in here, which I don't care.
Well, I mean, you can see the gray in mine too, but I will circle back to your rage buy. Now, I'm getting older. My memory's not always the best. But nothing specific for me comes to mind in any of those situations unless there would be a situation in which, and this would have been, 2010, 2011, 2012 type time frame.
Mm-hmm.
Where they started, putting out a lot more of his stuff again, like missing out on a 1-on-1 type situation that I wanted. and then go settle for something numbered to 5 or numbered to 10 or 25 type situation. That was a fairly decent buy it now. It was within range of what some of the past auctions would have sold. I could see that potentially happening, but for me specifically, nothing like came to mind in reference to that, because I've tried to avoid that, because going back to past conversations, sometimes that can lead to buyer's remorse.
Yep.
And up to this point, I have never experienced buyer's remorse ever. And granted, I haven't. I mean, the most I've ever dropped on a card is close to $300.
Mm-hmm.
Not that that's a walk in the park.
Yeah.
But for me to try and avoid the whole buyer's remorse aspect, I tried my best to not get into a situation to where I would rage buy something like that. Now, things are different these days because I'm more focused on the 90s inserts and filling the holes and the gaps and everything else. So, not saying that that's not a possibility in the future, but from past experience, I haven't had to deal with anything along those lines.
And thankfully, that was again a card that I wanted, so it wasn't like this thing was up for $100. I'm like, okay, I need to get it. It was the one that sold at auction was, I think, at like 45.
Yes,
And
Ty.
it was like
Sorry.
49.
Sorry, Dave. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I wanted to be able to answer his question, because I took down YouTube. Typically, I have YouTube on in the background on one of my tabs, so I can like interact sometimes in the chat. So I can acknowledge when they say something, and sometimes it takes us a while to get to it. It was slowing things down, so that's why But I wanted to make sure we didn't get a bunch of chats come down and I overlooked that. But to answer your question, yes, and it was over that, and it's been a few times. So, anyways, Dave, back to your story. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, like I was saying, it wasn't. Again, the one that sold at a buy it now is $39.99 after the other one had sold, and that one sold in the mid 40s. So again, that's when I bought for 49. It was 49, 44. It must have been $49.99 plus whatever shipping and tax. So it was like 57. Again, that wasn't the reason I probably bought. It's not like was 89, 119. It was something where it was close. So I was like, that's fine. But again, it was a card I wanted on a want list. If I a portion of some gold on it, I think it was on there. Not be in this particular notebook, which isn't a shock, because we usually seem to have like 10 notebooks lying around with all kinds of lists in them. But it was one that eventually I wanted to get. The one where the odds for me dictated enough for that to be one of the probably a top 50. Again, for something that was probably in the top 10 to get a top 15 or whatever. It wasn't a jump that I wasn't going to make at some point and over time. And with only one being listed between there and ComC, you know what? That's what I looked at too. I picked up, as I've shown you, whenever I get those shipped out, some stuff on ComC. If I don't see it on there, and if I see stuff like Hobble Balloons in there, I think Cujo or Grand Beer, those guys are on there for 25, 30. Brodeur's got to be twice that, because he has, I believe, the goalie amount of wins for the record. So I figure it's 2 times as valuable. I have so many notebooks. It sucks. I wish I could just consolidate and just have one, but it never will be that way. I've always been, even as a kid, I'd write stats down and it'd be in like separate notebooks everywhere. It just sucks.
I have one list, and believe it or not, I did prepare this time, Dave. Since we haven't been able to figure out the share, and I truly think that has to do with probably being on a laptop or on a
Yeah.
PC to allow for it to happen, which is not a big deal. But I have my one list, at least from my player collection perspective. I had other lists, but since my old PC crashed, I lost some of my checklists for cards I was missing and stuff for some of my sets.
There it is. Because I've got, and this is a thing, don't do people. If you're going to get a notebook, well, there, I just proved myself wrong. I got a black, I got a purple. I thought both were black, so I'm an idiot.
You were going to say get different colors?
Yep.
Which you did already.
I think I hadn't, and I still screw it up.
But
yeah,
well, I printed stuff off my checklist as a prime example for the topics of discussion and how I manage my lists. It's an Excel spreadsheet. We won't get into the topics just yet, but it's one of those in which I did do a printout so everybody can kind of see technically what my spreadsheet would look like with some additional details surrounding how I kind of leverage it. I mean, Dave, you've seen it. You know how I have it arranged. A lot of people may think I'm crazy, but at the same time, it's how it works for me, and it's easy for me to go into each section or each tab and validate and verify. Okay, I know this is what's listed. I can go right here. I can do sort by, colors to know for sure whether or not I have something or I don't. So, I mean, it makes things pretty easy for me to do that quick validation on listings on eBay, for instance. And, I haven't been on ComC in quite some time because I'm going to be brutally honest, and I don't know if anybody else has noticed this, but some of the prices that some of these people have on ComC are completely and utterly stupid. I don't get it. And then, of course, when they push that crap to eBay, you look at stuff and you're going, what the F are these people thinking? Okay, I get it. It's a little bit more rare, or, it could be a higher ratio pack pull type card. But some of these prices are just absolutely stupid. And, I always thought ComC was, you could base things off of percentages and things along those lines, because a lot of that has to do, you would think that they would have some sort of relationship with Beckett or something to pull some of that percentage pricing and stuff along those lines. But I've seen cards that I know I've purchased for pennies on the dollar over the years, and they got it for 20, 30, and you're just going, what the F?
Yeah, when they started crossing over to eBay, that was not a great sign. I did not want to see that. I know a lot of other people didn't want to see that because, again, clogs up our feed. I just want to see stuff that eBay sellers are selling on eBay.
Yep.
I would go to ComC, I would go to ComC and do my business there. So that it just, that was the main thing for me. And then again, seeing these prices where, okay, it's basically the buy it now price that they have listed on ComC. But on ComC, again, there's wiggle room if a card's within reason. Most of the time. A lot of these people don't have any wiggle room, which is stupid. Again, it's just how how much they value their cards, which they're free to do, but in the same vein, if you're trying to sell something over there, that's not a museum. eBay, you can have your store pretty much pay a flat rate and have it as a museum the whole time. I've seen people listing like $10 million looking for these Ricky Williams cards or looking for somebody certain
Right.
or specific, which again, if you stumble across it and you have one of those Ricky Williams or whoever cards, that's great. But most of us aren't going to be doing that like a huge message board that eBay isn't supposed to do.
Right.
But I've got some deals on there. You saw that Bledsoe
I did.
And I mean, I want that stuff in, but I'm like, that's sort of just like a fun time. Again, that whole pot of money was basically fun time. But that stuff, it's sort of like there. And if I go back and find some more stuff on there, I'll pick that up and then just add it to the pot. And then eventually, I think I spent not, I don't know, a good chunk of money, but not a ton. Probably like 300. But then again, I put in how much for fees and then taxes or whatever it was. But I mean, I got some stuff that I was really happy with for some decent prices. That Bledsoe's probably, I got a Walter Payton triple patch fabric of the game for about the same price as that Bledsoe.
No shit.
And I pretty much offered the bare minimum on that was allowed, and within like 10 minutes it was accepted. And it was legit serial number to 25, not the backdoor serial number. So I'm like, okay, I didn't expect that to go, but
yeah, I'm gonna start having you start making offers and bidding on shit for me, because obviously you've had a run of fantastic luck.
now if the stuff would get here,
yeah, well, that's a different conversation, right?
That hasn't been happening, but
I want to circle back to Ty's last comment, though. Actually, both of them kind of tie together there. The way I have my spreadsheet outlined and set up, I could probably capture that, but to be honest, I don't want to know. I don't want to know, because it's one of those in which this is a hobby. You're supposed to do this because we enjoy it, because we love it, and things along those lines, but not a way to sit there and go, holy shit, how much money did I spend? No, then that takes away from it. Unless you are just going crazy and you're not really thinking through things and you're spending your mortgage payment and stuff along those lines, you can still do things comfortably. Like I said, I know you, it seems as though you were kind of surprised when I mentioned the whole $300 mark on a single card. It's one that I wanted, and it's only been on 2. And I can tell you which 2 that it is. Now, I may get the year wrong, but I can tell you exactly what 2 cards it is. One was the first year of Flawless, and it was one of the 101 auto patches. I wanted one of the 2 from that inaugural year. And I had no issues at all, because, believe it or not, I lost that auction. But the person who bought it obviously went outside their means, and I was contacted 2 days later with a second chance offer to get it for what I put my bid in for. The other one, I think, is 03. I'm guessing it's 03. Actually, you know what? Maybe I'll talk as I'm pulling up my checklist here. Because it was Marks of Fame out of Marks of Fame was out of Donruss what? Help me out, Dave.
Classic?
That's the first thing that I was thinking too.
Because that doesn't, it's not the elite product. And Donna, like, Donna, I don't think had a base product in 03.
Maybe it was 05. Like I said, I'm sitting here trying to, because I should be able to pull it in my spreadsheet here. If I could remember the year, that's the issue, is remembering the year. I think I'm getting closer here. Okay, 2005. No, 2006. Absolute memorabilia, Marks of Fame.
Okay, yeah.
And it's the 101 autograph patch. And it's a like a tag patch.
Okay.
And I never would have thought I would ever see something like that. You know, there's some things that you just don't ever think that you would see.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on the collectability or, you know, the amount of product that's busted, there's a lot of things you would expect to eventually see pop up somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
It's one that I never thought I would ever see. And it was a buy it now best offer. And, you know, my initial offer was rejected. I thought it was fair, but I submitted a second offer, a little higher, and then I got a counter, and it was like, you know what? This guy isn't budging. This guy feels as though this is what it's worth, and I didn't have an issue with paying it. I didn't, but that's the only two times in which I've ever gone to that extreme. That
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean I haven't paid $225, $250, $260 on quite a few cards in which I have in the collection.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all auto stuff. It's all autograph stuff. So it's one of those in which you got to pick your poison. And as long as it stays within your budget during that time, sometimes you got to take those chances.
Well, that,
But
again, you're not going to see those two cards again. If it's the number to 1, if it's the number to 3 or 5 even, you got to strike while the iron's hot.
Yep. Both 101s. They're both 101s.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. You know, it was, so from the flawless perspective, I had my mind set. I wanted at least one of the two. I didn't care about the diamond crap, encased crap. I wanted one of the two patch auto 101s. Inaugural product, I wanted one. I don't think I've ever seen the horizontal. And if I did, it went for like stupid money. So I was satisfied with my vertical because it was part of the nameplate, which that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Although it's not as many colors, it's still pretty damn cool because it was part of the nameplate. The 06, I didn't realize initially that they had a 101. You know, it was, I stumbled across it on eBay and I'm like, is this legit? Because I have a 101 Jersey Auto that it's a legit card, but it's not listed anywhere in Beckett.
Yeah.
So my initial thought was, you know, is this like one of them maybe special issues, put in random like special packs, national type stuff?
The blank breach show or whatever they have.
Yeah, anything along those lines. So I was doing my searches and everything else, and it was like, holy shit, this is legit. And I had to have it because he doesn't have a whole lot of like laundry tag patches out there that are game used.
No.
So it was like, I gotta have this. Absolutely. Absolutely. And for individuals that are newer to my channel, I'm not going to tell you to go watch all my old videos and anything along those lines. But when I finally get to the auto portion of the Terrell Davis PC showcase, I think a lot of you will probably be flabbergasted with what I have in the collection for autos. Dave has seen them all. Michael hasn't joined us in a while. Michael, this film not yet rated, has seen them all. Ed Wesker Griff has been around a while. I know he's seen quite a few of them. Even Cole Hamels fan, for the life of me, I can't remember his name. I apologize. I know you know it, Dave, but I'm horrible with names. It's what?
Clint.
Okay, maybe that'll sink in. Clint, Cole Hamel. Okay, maybe I'll remember that. But a lot of people those who have been on YouTube for some time have seen a lot of them. And I don't look through it as frequent as I should, because I even have cards that I've picked up in the from like 2019 to I think 2017, I've picked them up. I've yet to integrate them.
Mm-hmm.
So they're still just sitting out because they're either not in mags. I have all my autos and all my patches in either mags or screw downs. And I ran out of mags and everything else. And, right now with supplies the way that they are, I'm not going to, spend an increased, dollar value to get some mags to get them integrated in the collection. So what'll happen is when I actually do that video, and I will fair warn you, that video will be very long. I have over 200 autos. So just throwing that out there. Even though, you saw 95, it was, a small handful of cards. It was a little over 10 minutes. That video is going to take a little bit longer because you have to focus on the serial numbering and everything else though too. But it'll be a very long video. They'll probably be done just on top of, I'll probably do those closer to the end type situation because everything else is in your order. Because I won't have the opportunity to probably integrate them into where they should fall. Not to mention it'll look really odd for cards to be in top loaders and things along those lines when everything else is in screw downs and mags.
Yeah. But again, just getting that done, and I'd say getting updated, not even a reference, just an updated video out there, the collection, that's going to be good for you too, just so, because the last one you did has been quite a number of years. And again, a lot of stuff has changed over that too. That's the thing. You've got how much more over the last 5, 6, 7 years since you really did a in-depth deeper dive into the TV collection. Well,
in the last one I did, I tried to get creative and, I embedded the DX theme song. It got flagged twice. So I marked it as private. And even then, I mean, I don't remember how many autos at that time, but, I had this goal to get 200 unique autos. And as long as I reached that goal, I was satisfied. That doesn't mean that there's not others out there that at some point I won't look to pick up if the price is right. But I stopped picking up autos probably close to 3 years ago, is my guess. And started focusing more on just cards that I wanted for centerpieces, I guess, because 2017 is when I picked up my 2 superfractors. And, there was a lot of 101 base parallel 101s that I picked up. And then, from there, I then started really shifting more towards the 90s stuff. And that's really where the focal point has been up to this point. And I'm not I'm not disappointed by that approach. A lot of stuff is slim picking these days because I have that narrow focus. Uh, but as we alluded to in past episodes, at some point, if I can find a decent workspace, I'll try and get back to looking at some of my sets and getting some of those checklisted to where I know what cards I'm needing and things along those lines to try and at least have something else to show off outside of just Terrell Davis.
Before we get to that, Bob, I'm going to show off the brew beer. Came in the cool screw down from 1994. So I was happy again to get that, even though I lost one. And we'll get into this later, but again, I can't be mad at anybody but myself for not just going out and buying it. It's not like somebody slashed the price in half and then they bought it. It was the same price it's been for 2.5, 3 months. So at least since I put it on my watch list. But again, that going back to the FOMO, that's what you sort of have to do. It's like, okay, I really like it, but there's this, and that's where you sort of have to navigate. Which one do I want more? Which is more limited? In my limited hockey experience, which one has come up more? And
Right.
again, the other one didn't come up. This one's been up 3 times. So, I mean, I regret not getting the other one, but I still love having this. So it's not absolutely a stupid rage buy, which, again, I don't think I've ever had that. I mean, I've made a lot of dumb purchases to other people, but again, stuff that I've liked or stuff that I've wanted or stuff that I can afford, I've got for prices I thought were adequate. Even this one, when ties, and again, Bob, we will get to you in a moment. This, I think I've paid over 3 on 2 cards as well. The one was the Lambo, or Lombardi.
Which would
Again,
make, but perfectly acceptable for
yeah,
what it was.
This guy's got a ton of autos, but this has always been the card and the auto I've wanted. He's had stuff in like the Leaf product for the last 10 years where it's been no logo, stuff like that. I don't know if he's got any Panini. I really don't look, because this has been the card that I've wanted since, again, a kid. I spent more than I should. The other one had a smudged auto, and that really turned me off because, again,
As it should.
but that one,
Beautiful.
and again, I know he's got a lot of autos out there. This isn't like, oh my God, he's rarely signs. I know he's got a ton.
But it's the card. It's the card significance.
And again, it's graded. I don't care about that. It's an 8.5, and 8. Got the subs on the back, which again I don't care about. I just don't want like a lot of this is prone to chipping. And so I looked it over as good as I could. I'm like, God, I hope there's nothing I'm not seeing. But there's no chipping. Because I know there's like, if it chips, it's a black mark on that foil.
Yep.
That foil is, again, a new technology then. So again, to have that, because the one I looked at, like right in the R, I think it might still be up. They marked it down from 250 to 200, but that R is smudged to hell, and I'm just like, I can't. It just is gonna, for me, maybe somebody else will edit it out or whatever. I can't. It's the detail, but I paid over 3 for that. Not that I wanted to, but at the same time, I went to my max, and I think it didn't top out the 250 more. So I'm like, ooh, I can jump up, and I jumped up to, I think, I don't even know what it had been, like 340. And I'm like, I that's more than I should go on this. But again, remember seeing that it was probably 400 to 500 back in 92, 93, 94, 98, 99, 2000. And just, again, that card, it's elite, Donruss Elite.
Yep. Elite
That
Series. I mean, that's the format of that card. That's the card design that follows.
yeah.
And I put that on the list of iconic baseball inserts until I'm blue in the face.
Hmm.
And when you add the fact that they brought back or they utilized that card design and did on card autographs,
Hmm.
it just it gorgeous. And I do have to ask, you got close to the 300 mark though on your PM or your precious metal.
Yeah, on the wah, if it wasn't, it was probably right at it.
So that was the one that I had that came to mind for that price point.
And there might have been something else along the line. I've tried to buy Nagurski autos. I've tried to buy Ernie Nevers autos. I can buy that swell, like the swell, like from what, 88, that they're slabbed, and I can get some stuff like that cheap, but I want to get a pumped. Yeah, those are off centered. That's the thing I have with those. I bought, I think, 3 or 4 more of those the other night, and I think I got them. They look pretty well centered, but again, it'll never be a 50-50 centering. It's a back-to-back card.
Is that the black border stuff though?
It's got sort of the same, the foil around it,
Oh,
same
okay.
foil. It's like a gold, I don't even know what I'd call it. A gold prismatic. It's got a foil around all of it, and like the
Oh,
name is
okay.
foil, but
Gotcha.
it is just horrendous for centering. Yeah, that I look at that constantly when I'm looking at any of those elites because I know that shipping is so prevalent. Now, Bob.
So let me ask one clarification, because since we always preface some of this that these are opinions, of course. Are you looking at just generic rare? What are you deeming rare? Are you talking pack pull ratio rare? Are you talking serial number rare? Because to me, those are completely different
Mhm.
depending on what years you're looking at. Because in the 90s, you can have both rare pull, low serial number, or you could just so you're talking like one per case, regardless of serial number and everything else. Okay. I just wanted to see what the basis was, what we were looking at from a rare perspective, so I could formulate my response. So Dave, I'll let you respond to that first, since you've been purchasing a lot more, especially from the rare perspective.
The Ripken, I don't know how good of a barometer it is because, again, any of us probably that are looking for any of those older autos, as long as that auto is nice, that's going to be the first key. I think Sandberg's got a 91, Ripken's the 92, and then after that, I don't think they
Okay,
do.
but let's change that, and let's take auto out of the question. Let's focus specifically from an insert perspective. Although, yes, I know that's an insert, but
On some of those, I would be, because I know they had some of the other, like the upper deck, like let's say the Willie Mays, the Ted Williams, the Reggie Jackson, the
the
Hank Aaron.
heroes, the
Yeah.
upper deck heroes, yep.
So if that auto is crisp enough, maybe there's some, like the corner has a little crease on it, like the name has a crease or something. As long as that auto looks nice on that header card, I'm more apt to pay for that than something that's like a 9.5, but that auto's faded.
Right.
Now, on a regular card, it depends on the card. It's got to be. It can't just be a flat baseline where you're saying, okay, these are my guidelines. It has to have A, B, C, and D every card because a lot of them are like an acetate. So you're like, okay, If I hold that acetate and I'm trying to see if there's scratching on it, that's going to be a huge detriment for me. But knowing if it's a case hit, I don't have to worry about edges. I don't have to worry about corners. Centering most of the time is pretty good on an acetate cover. The one thing I'm going to have to worry about is scratching on the surface. For any of these other cards, you have to worry about foil chipping, you have to worry about edge chipping, you have to worry about corners, then you have to worry about surface. So for me, again, if I see something like rounded corners on like a Donruss Elite, I'm not going to buy it. Because again, somebody obviously wasn't too great in taking care of stuff. But again, there's 10,000 of them. Sure, there's still some in some pallets off in like the Beirut shipping dock. That's fine. But you can find those out there. You do enough digging. It's not like a 1 number to 20 like a Fleer Showcase. What is it? Like the Masterpiece, the Legacy Collection from 2000. It's not something like that where you're just not seeing them because they're not being listed because they're all locked up in collections, or if they're in boxes, they're way too much because Brady's rookies that year. It's got to be on a case-by-case basis, and if the price is right, like the Bledsoe I showed, that primary color is yellow die cut, I knew that corner was peeling. I knew another part of it was peeling. For 10 or 12 bucks shipped, for a card to 25, that if I see it again, great, I'll try to get it. But for that, I'll take that just to have something, and then I'll have an example. Again, right. $10, $12, again, nothing to sneeze at. That's still a decent, for us, card. Not the big wigs out there right now. But again, if it's like a $90 card, and it's like, it's got like a scratch on the back and maybe like a ruffled over, on the tie, turn away from this. Like if there's like a big scratch or a gash, like in the, I don't know if I showed you or Matt from the Essential Credentials, there's a Premier Padman, perfect example of one that I passed on because I just couldn't. The gold medallion, it's 1 in 360. 1 in 360. One of my top cards I want of Brodeur. The back had, I'll just use this as like the back had like a gash, like a scratch in it going down, and I'm like, are you kidding me? I would have paid like $125 for that card. It went for $64 because I just wasn't gonna go in on that.
Yeah, and
the medallion.
See, and that's the thing, David, and I kind of agree with that assessment. It really is a case by case type situation because condition always kind of plays a part. And for those honest sellers out there, as long as they're making notation of said situations, then you have the opportunity to make the determination, is the risk worth the reward type situation. If you're okay with that, when you're looking at condition, especially for some of those that are condition sensitive, that's a harder call because depending on how condition sensitive they are and depending on how quality of the photos there are, can ultimately dictate what you feel would be the right price point to go after. But at the same time, if it's one that's extremely rare and it doesn't come up very often, are you willing to put forth the risk and still acquire something and hope that you're still satisfied? Because in the end, until you actually get it in your hand, a picture is only going to give it so much justice. So I'm right there with you, as it really is a case-by-case type situation. And, like Bob though alluded to, at a fair price. That really plays a big part into it because what dictates a fair price, other than your assessment of what somebody has something listed for, whether it be a buy it now best offer or it's an auction type situation. You know, only the individual trying to make that purchase can, really dictate whether or not it's a fair price. Platinum medallion of your guide that has significant chipping. I think I could accept that a lot more if it's on the back than it were if it were on the front. Because you typically are paying attention to the front. Now, if you're a grading guy type situation, then yeah, that's an impact. If you want to set the precedent, everything I want in my collection, I prefer to have be a 9 or better.
Mm-hmm.
Then, of course, then you wouldn't go after something like that. It's easier for me to deal with an issue on the back, depending on what it is. Now, like you alluded to, even a gash, I'd have a hard time getting something that has a gash, because that to me indicates that somebody didn't take care of something. If you can attribute it to the pack out process or roller lines or miscutting, in the manufacturing process, then maybe I'd be a little bit less strict when it comes to something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But for something that looks as though somebody gashed it somehow, a screwdriver went down the back of the card, or something like that, I'd have a hard time justifying any price to pick up something like that, regardless of how rare it is. If we're talking serial number, one per case, rare type situation, and you're talking low numbering, that ultimately would change that perception or that mindset, because if it's something numbered to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then it's something different. Then the whole conversation really kind of changes a little bit, because when you're talking about serial numbering, you know that there's only a limited number of cards out there.
Mm-hmm.
And, to make things worse, I want to take it a step further and take it just away from just the PC focus perspective, like a player focus.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a set collector and it's serial numbered, and that's an even different topic of conversation. Because as a set collector, it's complete the set, regardless.
Yep.
Complete the set. And if something is low numbered, it doesn't matter. You pick it up so you can at least say you complete the set, in hopes that you can find a better quality example at some point in time later down the road.
And I think that really in the insert world, there's a lot of issues there, because again, people, they take care of cards, but again, you'd have people leafing through your cards at a show, at the hobby shop. You have collectors over, let's say you're a teen or like an early 20s. You got everybody looking through cards, handling them. A lot of times, maybe they weren't in soft sleeves. You just didn't have sleeves. What I think of too a lot with that question is like a patch card. And when you say complete the set, I think of the absolute jumbo patches, which were mostly numbered to 25. And then when Panini took over, they started dicking around with like stuff numbered to 5 and 10 and 1. If you had that one, let's say it was just the 5s, there was no 101s in the set, how much would that, and you answered it, that crease, maybe there's a crease in the patch window. Because I know there's a lot of stuff out there that I've passed on that's been fairly rare, just because if that crease is so noticeable, it just, there's certain things that I myself, in my opinion, my viewpoint, I can't take on a card with, my mind just like going bonkers. And that's one of those, is that if I've got something like that, I try to hide it. I'm like, go away. get out of here. Nobody wants to see you. You're pre-stuffed package. I'm happy to have you in the collection, but you're like the redheaded stepchild. Just get sit in the corner and just. Am I happy? Yeah, because again, it's something to 5. You're probably not going to see it again, and if you do, you're going to probably pay whatever 10 times what you paid for this one.
Right.
But it's just like that's one big thing that I can't walk away. I can walk away from the card most of the time, unless again it's somebody like a McCown, Kerry Collins, Northcutt, Josh Johnson. I'm so into those guys, it doesn't even matter anymore if I buy a damaged patch or not. If it's something to 5, I'm going to buy it of them because that I've already dug myself to China and back on those holes. So
That is true. That is true. Best find at a show in a dollar box, and yeah, well, I've only been to one show, 2 shows in my entire life, and one was when I was a lot younger, and that's the whole Bledsoe story, the '93 SP Bledsoe story, and then going down to the Tri-Star show with Scott 2244 and meeting Ryan and Neil, RBI Crew 7, and I was still a box guy in those days. I still loved opening product. I didn't thumb through any dollar boxes, so I have no tales or any stories from that perspective. But maybe I should start.
I got one story that I know I've said it probably multiple times on here. I think it was like 2016, before going to a wrestling event in Superior, Wisconsin. I was going to go to A&W over in Aurora. See on the side of the road, like sports cards for sale inside. I'm like, this can't be good. I'm going to spend all my wrestling money towards sports cards here. Like, this is not going to be a fun time. And usually when you have something like that, it's, who knows what junk, like 91 Fleer that people are just like trying to unload. So I go in there, I start looking through the boxes. I'm like, well, there's some decent stuff. Again, I wish I would have bought more, but the funds at the time were going to pay for wrestling 8x10s and meet and greets. So I get to like I think it was like $5 each, or what, 5 for 20. So I'm like, okay.
So buy 4, get 1 free, pretty much.
Pretty much. So I'm like, okay, we'll look through these. I don't even remember what I found for the other 4. But again, 2016, I think it was in May. So one player had 2 collectors after him that were just stupid for baseball. And I mean, he hadn't really had anything baseball-wise listed in a long time. So I'm thumbing through, and I see a printing plate. I'm like, oh, cool, $5. That ain't gonna be bad. Look in the back, 2006 Ultimate Collection, Omar Vizquel. At the time, again, this is at least $150 with the 2 guys that were going stupid on anything that was low numbered. If you had something numbered to 1, you were getting pretty much a mint for a guy that was a very good defensive shortstop, one of the best of all time. So I bought those, and I think some other, I don't know if it was like a $10 or like, what, 3 for 25, something like that. So I bought, and I don't even remember what they were, because that Vizquel took precedent. I had a guy, I was on Freedom Cardboard a lot more at the time. That's a forum. I showed it off in there, and he's like, man, if you want to sell us, I'll sell it to you for free, or sell it for you for free, minus whatever shipping, because we'll send it out registered or whatever. He's like, I've got 25,000 feedback. It's like, I know what you've got. You don't sell it all. And he's a friend, so I was like, yeah, whatever. He's like, what do you want me to put it up at? I'm like, I don't know, maybe $2,000 best off or something like that. It's like, how about we put a $1,000 for best offer? Like, whatever, it don't matter. Within 30 minutes, the thing sold for $1,000.
$5 investment.
They happen very, very rarely.
Yep.
And I've had 2 of them now, but I'm very happy to have stopped there, found that. And again, I'm sure I spent all that money on absolutely nothing of use. Michael Agnew, that'd probably be one regret.
So that's an interesting question. Because which atomic refractor are we referring to? And that's going to dictate the answer.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are 2 different versions of atomic refractors. And if you're alluding to the one that looks like the cracked ice, then I'm going to tell you atomic refractor, because cracked ice is a knockoff of that cracked ice or that atomic refractor version. Is that 97?
Yeah, 97, 98. The 99 one, that one is the biggest pile of trash that Topps ever produced.
So the non-checkered. So trying to think of, because if I'm thinking through this right, and based on your description, the non-checkered version would have to be the 97 version of the atomic refractor. Because others, like Stadium Club, their atomic refractor was the checkerboard within or throughout the card or whatever. So my answer is always going to be the 97 atomic refractor. End of conversation. Dave?
Yeah, like I said, 99 is the worst year they had. Now they switched it up. I think of 98, the atomics to 100 out of like Bowman's Best, because that's the atomic refractor. But again, Panini Prism, and I don't know if Optics got it, like the checkerboard there, or they have the cracked ice. It's atomic refractor, and that's, again, it's like wrestling. You have a revisionist history. Now all these people, they look at the Stadium Club or the Bowman's Best, either one. They're like, oh, that's a nice cracked ice there. And no, you're dumb. It's atomic refractor.
Well, and they can't use the terminology though. I mean, because it's still trademarked and copyrighted by the original.
Oh, I know.
Manufacturer that did it. So it is 98 that you're alluding to. I don't know why I was thinking 97. I was thinking maybe the card design, but that's the one I was thinking is the one serial number to 100 that really carries the cracked ice look.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got others. So 97 Skybox Premium, the primetime rookies, and I shared this in my video for what's his butt, the top 10, top 5 non-auto memorabilia cards. I'm drawing a blank. I'm telling you, sucks getting old. But I brought out the primetime rookies from 97 Skybox Premium.
Mm-hmm.
And it has the atomic refractor feel to it. I mean, you look at it and it looks exactly like an atomic refractor. Now, they don't call it that or anything along those lines. It's just primetime rookies. That's the name of the insert set. But that same card design it's exactly like an atomic refractor. So the fact that it was used in other sets is one thing. It didn't carry the name, which, is okay. But I'm always going to go back to the original. Card designs, nomenclature, and things along those lines, and, say that everybody else, that reuses the same type of technology. They're just reusing it. They're giving it a different name. If they can find ways to improve upon it, then, maybe it's a different topic of conversation. But, for me, it's always going to be the atomic refractor. It's always going to be the refractor. Yeah, some years are better than others, but, that happens. But overall, that's what I'm always going to lean to.
Yeah, the no protectors from 98 Finest are that shine, and then the Clear Brilliance 98 Shining Stars with Pulsar. Is that what they are? The when the back is refractory too, or the shine on there. That's
the Pulsar. Yeah.
Those two are the ones that I think of when you look at the back, and it's just as bright as it is on the front, and that's when they did it right.
And what I never understood is, only, well, and maybe I can only speak from, my specific PC collection. A lot of manufacturers didn't carry that same technology on the front and the back. Z-Team is one that also comes to mind, in which the Dufex on the 1 year that's coming to mind. Can't remember the year.
95.
That's why I always have my checklist. That's why I had my checklist when I was doing my video, because there's a lot of times in which I don't want to confuse the names and everything else. In which the front technology is the same on the back. And to me, that's just a little extra touch of special, because we always typically look at the front of the card, because that's always the most important part. But at the same time, when you have something that's like a little added special to the back, it just kind of leaves a little bit more of a lasting impression.
We'll get to at least one of these this week. I don't know how many, but
well, since I have some examples,
I was gonna say.
And that's what I went inside to get, so I had it. Now, I am outside, so I don't know how well this is going to show up, but the light is on out here. So to kind of give you some basis, and since we've been unable to share my spreadsheet, my entire Terrell Davis checklist is on an Excel spreadsheet. And I leverage Beckett as it pertains to card counts and the way that Beckett lists the checklist. So it's in alphabetical order, inclusive of any of the parallels and things along those lines. So instead of it being like your base and then your parallels in alphabetical order or anything along those lines, it will add certain insert sets into the mix. So when I start doing the other videos, you'll sit there and go, as I'm doing like Bowman's Best, it may be the base, and then all of a sudden it's the atomic refractor, but then you've got the best cuts insert, and then the atomic refractor and the refractor, and then it goes back to just the base refractor. So you'll see that kind of trend in the videos. Because when I look at my checklist or my spreadsheet, I want to make sure I can know exactly where to go to find and validate if I do in fact have a card. So this will be the next video. So this is 96. And this, like I said, this is based specifically off of Beckett's, and I had to actually print this in landscape. So it's the description that's listed. And back when I actually had an online subscription, I was able to export some of this. Now I have to freaking hand type this shit, which sucks on the newer stuff. But it's the description, which is, of course, the brand, the card number, and things along those lines. Attributes, whether it be serial number, memorabilia, auto, so on and so forth, print run. And then at the time, like I said, I did have a subscription. This pricing is extremely old, so don't even look at it. But Beckett low and high dollar value. As long if it was listed, of course. Anything serial number to a certain point was, not applicable. So it would show as 0. And there's quite a few pages here for 96. And then I also color coded. So I know it may seem odd, but anything highlighted in red is what I have. Anything highlighted in black is what I still need. So that just kind of gives you an idea of how I do my checklist for the Terrell Davis collection. And it's all on one spreadsheet, and I have anybody who's familiar with Excel, I have my tabs running across the bottom, and it's broken out by year. So I have a pre-95 tab, I have a 95 tab, a 96. Any year that he had cards, I have a tab. And it's formatted the same way. And then at the end, I have it broken out by year. So this is the card totals, and sometimes these have been updated a few times. But you have the card totals per year, cards that I have. And then I have a notation here for obtainable need. What I considered obtainable is anything serial numbered to 5 or higher. So anything serial number below 5, I did not notate as obtainable. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not capturing my 101s and things along those lines either. So obtainable need is anything serial number to 5 or, well, okay, so it's 4 or less. I lied. My bad. I thought I had it at 5. So you can see as you go down the list, there are some deviations with cards that I need and then cards that I notated as obtainable. So 4 or less is the number of cards in said year that are serial numbered 4 or less. And that is removed from the need. So if you look at this, so 211 minus 34 gives you the 177 for obtainable need. And then I capture my 4 or less that I actually own. And then there's the total once everything kind of falls into play. And then I even went a step further, and because I'm trying to obtain a certain percentage of cards owned. So I have a percentage count for every year. Anything highlighted in red is below 50%, which there for a while was a focal point. And of course, when you start getting further down in some of these other ones, and a lot of these haven't been updated for some of the later years. But then you look at the bottom. So that's the full totals. So 5235 at the last time I did this on Beckett, I have 2,058 unique cards. And then come over here, that's the total percentage of cards owned of Terrell Davis. So that's what I use. And it's specific to him because it's in, like I said, it's easy for me because me doing color codes, depending on what I'm doing, depending on what I'm looking at, I can do a quick filter by color and say, okay, do I have this or do I need it? Depending on, because I can look at it both ways. I can filter it by red and say, okay, my red is what I know I have. Look down, crap, I'm not seeing it. Okay, clear my filter type situation, go to look at, automatic or black and say, yep, okay, it's one card that I know for sure I need. And it's easily validated that way. I don't actually have to go look in my boxes for a validation. And my checklist, as far as the halves, the cards that I physically have, that has been revalidated as of when I bought part of that collection.
Mm.
Because I started going through integrating everything and going down my list and I'll be honest, I had stuff highlighted that at one point I thought I had. For whatever reason, it was in my possession. That would be the only reason as to why it would have been highlighted. And for whatever reason, it wasn't in my box. It was doing an audit of something else and it just didn't get integrated and it got put back into a different box or something along those lines. So I've had to make some changes. And the totals does not feed from any of the other sheets. There's calculations on that part of it or on part of my spreadsheet, but it's not pulling total numbers. There's no VLOOKUPs and calculations. I didn't go to that extreme, but I did. There are some calculations on that page,
Mm.
but a lot of that information is hard coded. As in, I've gone in, looked at each year, done a validation of okay, what I have captured here is in fact 335 cars. Looked at Beckett. Beckett shows 335. And fair warning for anybody who ends up using Beckett, be very careful because there's times in which you can see different numbers when you do just you type in a player. It may give you a total number, but what's interesting, if you actually go year by year, that quantity will not add to that total number. So your best bet is to type in your player and then go to each separate year to look at the total number of cards for that year. And once you do that, use that data to then truly capture your total number of cards produced for the player.
I used to have, I don't even remember how many years ago it had been. It might have been 04, 06 when I had a Kerry Collins list. I had the guy that was up here that collected Ben Grieve. I think he had bought a Beckett subscription just for the month or whatever, for the sole purpose of printing off the checklists. And he had asked, "What do you want?" I said, "Collins and Northcutt for sure. But after that, I mean, whatever." So I think I got those. And I think later down the line on eBay, there was a guy selling checklists from Beckett.
I thought about doing that at one point in time, to be honest, because I'd found a shortcut to allow the ability to export it into Excel without any additional formatting or anything else along those lines. And I seriously considered it.
I would love if somebody found that, did it. I would probably pay $10 per thing just to have that. I'm so much more of a physical copy person that on the phone it's going to do me no good. I've typed up what I've had on previous laptops and they've died. So I know how much typing that was. I don't want to go through that again. I don't even care. I mean, I know it'd be better for my collection if I had something and then be like, okay, I can pull this up, boom, done. If I had a paper, like just a huge report, like let's say your senior high school report, I was like a 50-page report. I'd rather have it in those 50 pages of 3 or 4 of my guys than have it on a computer just because I always feel more comfortable with the stuff in hand. Just because, again, if I'm going to a show, I can just roll it up like I'm doing a paper route, go there, be like, okay, I got to bust this out, check it out, or put it in like the plastic holder and then punch the 3 holes in so you can have the tabs go through it and then you can just carry it around like that. But yeah, I don't think I'll ever again do anything on on a computer. It has to be paper, and I'd rather write like I showed you. Like this is like my brochure. I think it was more so just a list of things I'm really after. And again, I didn't get too far. It was just down to through the Donruss stamp of approval. So I mean, I went through Aurora, Black Diamond, Bowman's Best, Crown Royal.
Looking through your Beckett.
Yeah, just going right through there and being like, these are the ones that really stand out for me.
Yeah, and that's, it. At one point, I actually did printouts per year,
Mm-hmm.
and my plan was to, put them in a binder type situation.
Yeah.
And it got to after I started going through and doing that, because you got all the shit on the left hand side, you had to find ways to get creative, because if you didn't, you had like the banners at the top and the ads on the side, and you had this, for 200 cards, for instance, for 1 year type situation, you could end up with like 10 pages of shit
Mm-hmm.
because of all the excess crap that you didn't need.
Yep.
And after doing that for a few, I was like, you know what? I got to figure out a better way to do this. And so, as I had alluded to earlier, originally I had an online subscription. And for whatever reason, I was able to pull data off of, Beckett's website and paste it into an Excel spreadsheet without it having a multitude of hyperlinks and all sorts of other issues, because then it's like, it looks like shit. You're still having things in there that you don't want. Since I no longer have a subscription, the whole pulling stuff from online and putting it into Excel doesn't work for whatever reason. Now, I don't know if they've like changed some of their stuff or anything along those lines, but I can't get it to work, which is why like all the newer stuff. I mean, I have some of my tabs, they're blank, because I haven't been able to figure out a way to pull it from online, put it into the spreadsheet to where it's in the same format that I have. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck this. At some point, I'll start going through them and I'll start hand typing and doing some copying and pasting and stuff along those lines. But it's like a lot of the newer stuff, I don't have a whole lot of interest in. So to be brutally honest, the only thing that I care about is continuing to like calculate the total cards that are produced type situation. Outside of that, if I pick up something from a later year and I have nothing in the spreadsheet, then I'll take a moment and, like, for instance, let's say I started picking up Mosaic, 2020 Mosaic. Once it hits Beckett, what I would probably do is, put in all of the listings for Mosaic under 2020 and follow my same process, highlight the ones that I ended up picking up or whatever, and fill in the rest of my spreadsheet. But I do that as one-offs because I'm not focused at all on a lot of the newer stuff, at least not right now. So it's still able to be updated and added to and things along those lines. It just, I haven't put forth the effort like I did at one point to formulate and create the spreadsheet in order to keep track of everything, because once I realized I couldn't just do a copy and paste and do some remove of hyperlinks and deleting of this and that, I'm like, I don't know if it's because I had a subscription or, like I said, if they've changed some formatting or things along those lines. I just didn't want to put forth the effort, because a lot of the stuff that I already had captured in the spreadsheet, I was good with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and then you being super focused on what you need, you've got it on the list, as you said. That black is the stuff you need, red stuff you got. So it's not like you're diverting in some other path. Like, oh, I maybe I need this. No, there's no maybe. You may, again, depending on how intense you are on like the printed one. Let's say you use that sort of as a, okay, I bought that. I'll put like an eye there, and then incoming when it gets here, guess what? I'll cross it off, and I can go into the computer and adjust the spreadsheet. But I mean, it's not like you're doing four different things on a list.
Well,
Where,
and I always leverage my saved copy. I don't have my checklist printed.
okay,
I've never printed it. Now I could easily do it
yeah,
because all my tabs right now are filtered to automatic,
hmm
or what's black font. So that is specifically focusing the cards that I need. So I could easily go in and print each tab because that's the filters that I have.
hmm
Instead, what I do is I pull it up. I have it saved in multiple places. Um, I have actually two backups of it, believe it or not, because I put a lot of work in that.
hmm
So I have two backups. So anytime I do end up getting something or winning something or anything along those lines, it gets highlighted immediately in red. But I don't change my filters. Like I don't reset my filters to kind of make it go off
hmm
of my normal view until I physically have it in hand. Because case in point, I did that on my status die cut that I never got and then forgot to go back through and update my spreadsheet. But
Here to this one.
you want me to take
I'm
that one first?
I'm in the camp of both. For me, if I just had a single list of like whatever I'm looking for, you start. It helps when with you, you're just doing TD. When you get to the sets, that's gonna be perfect. I just need eight. I need card number 28, 57, 102, 112, and 18 for my set. For me, if I just put down like, hey, I just want these top 10 cards of Brady, Collins, Northcutt, Waugh, Forsberg, Berger, Josh Johnson, all my guys I dabble with and collect, then you're so focused on that maybe something else comes along. You're like, well, what the hell is that? That's not on my list. Why isn't it on my list? If I'm really intrigued by it, how did it slip through the cracks? So that's why for Brodeur, I start with a Waugh one, and I don't know, I've got probably 4, 5 pages.
Well, for you, it makes it too hyper focused.
Because I've got like the Waugh I've written down, like and that's my writing too. So I mean, it's like, and I've gotten to 2.5 pages of, and that's only through 0304 Black Diamond. So it's like I was doing that, and I'm like, half these, if I see them, will I want them? I'm not going for a complete checklist of these guys.
Right.
Brodeur, it seems like it's trending towards that, but it's mostly stuff that I'm attracted to because it's eye appealing. It's eye catching. When it's like, oh, here's a 95, 96 like base gold medallion parallel. That's a cool card, but it's not something that I'm desperately seeking. A, because of scarcity, and B, it doesn't do a heck of a lot for me. Now, that Premier Padman, 94, 95 gold medallion. Yeah, or 95, 96. Yeah, that one when it's a case hit. When you have the Ultra logo up here, then you have to put it down there because if you would have stamped up here, you would have killed the die cut part of the card. Stuff like that. It's like, yeah, those are going to be, even if it's not a rare card, if it's an artist proof, 1 in 36, 1 in 47, whatever the case may be, those cards are always going to carry more weight because of rarity, because when you tried to pick them up as a kid, as a younger collector, they weren't easy pulls.
Right.
And it's just, that stuff's always going to hold precedent, even over game use stuff. There'll be some like shoulder or the blocker pad. I want to get some of those cards because again, it's a different piece of the ensemble that they're wearing instead of, oh, here's a jersey. Oh, here's like a piece of the baseball or football. That's cool, but yeah, you got blocker pad or the stick, which again in hockey, it's like, well, they use sticks all the time, but for somebody that doesn't do a lot of hockey or hasn't really done a lot of hockey for 15, 20 years, to me, those are cool, especially if you get like the Easton on it or something.
But even for you, since you've kind of shifted focus a little bit more to Brodeur or Wah from a hockey perspective, and keep me honest here. I'm just kind of thinking through this as you're making your list, though, for those that you're making note of from an eye appeal perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Does it really impact your focus? Because I consider those side PCs,
Mm-hmm.
and from the way that you collect, if something is extremely eye appealing to you and you would prefer to have it for one of your side PC players, whether it be Brodeur or Wah, if you stumble across something for Madonna or somebody else, you still may be apt to pick it up because of the eye appeal. So, from that perspective, does it really hurt your focus? In that situation, it doesn't. If you are strictly talking it from a player perspective,
Mm-hmm.
and since you have specific cards that you have in mind as you're making your lists, it can hurt your focus 100%. And you said it yourself. I mean, you can go both sides because you then become so narrow focused that you may overlook something or you may miss something, or
You may blow your wad on something that you like, but you miss something you love.
right. So, and I can definitely see that, from your perspective, because, you do have multiple side collections. And although you've shifted a lot more towards the hockey stuff,
Mm-hmm.
you are still so, and I don't want to say narrow focused because that's a bad term, but there are certain cards out there that you have in your mind that are the top of your list, regardless of who it is sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So from that perspective, to me, it actually helps your focus because you're acquiring stuff for the enjoyment of said product or said insert set and things along those lines. So it kind of almost broadens your collection more so than if you were just strictly focusing on like Brodeur or Wah, for instance. You're getting other guys that you enjoyed watching. They're Hall of Famers, things along those lines. But you're still getting to hold something that's rare, you don't see very often,
Yeah.
and it may even kind of push you more to sit there and say, okay, I may now have this card of Brett Hull, super cool card. I really, really now want to find the Brodeur or the Wall. So, it's that double-edged sword in your situation because you have such a vast collection base that depending on which way you want to spin it, and I try and look at the glass half full usually, always carry the mindset that it's going to help you create some focal points to where, when you get to the point to where funds are not in excess as what they have been, so to speak, because of, your windfall, it may actually help you, focus specifically on those cards that really are at the top of your want list. If you just had, a top 10 or a top 20 type situation for said players, although you've probably scratched off quite a few of those over the last few months, to me, I think that could actually hinder you more because then you're not broadening those searches and things along those lines though too. So that's just my opinion.
And then two, because I've picked up Madonna stuff, I've picked up Hull, I've picked up Solani, Bure. They're all Hall of Famers. They've all had incredible levels of success. And I always revert back to you can't compare apples to apples. You can't compare Jeter to this guy, or Favre to this guy, or Marino to him, or whatever. It just it doesn't hold any weight. But I know in one of the videos I've got spent a good chunk of change, but I got a bunch of the 94, 95 score the franchise. I got a bunch of limited stubble cards. And one or two other insert sets that dude had, and I'm just like went bananas because he had Lemieux. There's another one, Gretzky. I got some of their stuff, which for the price I got it at, I felt incredibly comfortable. And like I'm looking at Waugh, which I knew I wanted. I paid nearly 2 times for Waugh what I paid for Gretzky. I don't know. Again, if I can't find a copy, let's say the 96, and I always get it wrong. I'm sure anybody that knows hockey, if Carlos was in here, he'd correct me. He's done it before, which is good. The 96, 97 Black Diamond, like the run for the cup, whatever the acetate with the gold foil, like the Curtis Martin I had picked up. That was number that's incredibly rare to come across. The 98, 99 Star Quest Gold, numbered 100. There. If I can pick up a copy of anyone, I don't care if it's the lowliest defenseman in the set or the worst goalie, like at the time, let's say Brian Boucher for the Flyers was in that set, it'd still probably go for $200 because those are such desired cards. I don't think I'd pay that much for it, but if I could get one in trade or do a cash trade, something like that, and pick it up, just to have an example of the card, just like the Delver, it's a perfect thing.
Yep.
Just to have an example of the card, and at least I got fairly serviceable and good for a number of years with a solid team. I would do it just because I won't say that dumb, but I'm always that interested and intrigued by like, okay, I'd rather have this copy in hand than look at like 50 photos online because it's a world of difference. You have something in your hand and you can see the etching, you can see how the foil dances differently on the light. You can see just different things because again, those franchise cards of that 95, 94, 95 score, they look like nothing to me, but then I got them in hand and no, there's a couple different the gold foil, and whatnot, it looks a lot different because you can't tell that in any scan. But that's the thing. If it's Madonna, it's $10. That's it. He's one of the greatest U.S.-born hockey players of all time. Brett Hall, he went to the University of Minnesota Duluth. So guess what? There's a local connection, but it's not like he's come back to Duluth a lot.
Right.
It's just these guys. Even I'm trying to think who I picked up. Joey Junot for the old Capitals. He was a huge prospect in the early '90s, and I remember like, oh, he's going to be the next one in the next 400 goal scoring forwards. He did pretty much nothing. But again, just you throw in memories, you throw in something that you just don't see, and then you throw in again something that is appealing. That's a bad combination for somebody that's collecting cards. It's good, but it's bad. That's why it's basically you're straddling the fence. Because again,
Right.
you can always have where the grass is very green, then you look at the other side, it's gloom and doom. So
Right.
it's trying to find that balance and not constantly tip over on one side or the other.
Well, and I'll be honest with you, Dave, I don't know how you do it. Because I would go stir crazy. And, even going back a few years in which, I was still picking up TD stuff. I had my certified mirror gold patch sets that I was working on. And then, from time to time, I would, look for Broncos autos.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like I was truly singular focused, so to speak. My main focus was always Terrell Davis. And at the time when I was doing those sets, it was Terrell Davis in those sets. I mean, those were my searches. Because that's, when you're trying to complete a set, it's the newest product type situation. You're always trying to sit there and make sure that you don't miss out. Because in that situation, there was a good possibility that I could have missed out on the Beanie Wells, for instance, number to 5.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought the first and only one that had ever been listed. And I paid more than what I should have for a Beanie Wells patch. But I didn't give a shit because I had almost everything else. I had all the other short prints and working on the set. Like I said, the important thing is to acquire it. And, granted, it's a cool ass patch. It's the cardinal head with the beak. I mean, it's a cool patch. But, even after I finally completed the set, I had done a few searches because, there were a few that I felt like I needed upgrades on. For whatever reason, I could have a 3-color patch, but for whatever reason, I only have a 2-color. Or, I only had a 1-color patch, but, needed a 2 or 3-color depending on the situation. I never once saw another one ever pop up. Now that doesn't mean there hadn't been one, but at least for the 6 or 7 months that I worked on that set type situation and looking for upgrades, I never once saw another one listed. I mean, I think I paid $75, $90. I mean, something stupid. And that's because it was a logo patch number to 5, and it was a buy it now type situation. I didn't even haggle. I paid the price because that was the lowest print run of that set. I don't know. And like I said, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you can focus on so many different player collections and still do some of and I'll call them random searches. And I know that that's what they are, but they're with a purpose. They're with a sole purpose, which I get and I understand. Uh, because there's still a lot of things that I know you consistently look for, and you leverage some generic searches to try and locate some of them because of the rarity. And I get that. But I still don't know how you juggle between all of them. It amazes me, to be brutally honest. And it's kudos to you, because although you're not talking high dollar stuff on some of these things by any stretch of the imagination, it's just the nostalgia and the rarity of some of the things that you've stumbled across and that you've picked up and added to the collection and brought to light to some of the newer collectors that didn't get a chance to experience that. And it's different than, seeing something on eBay or seeing comp listings on eBay or something on ComC with a scanned picture, or looking through a Beckett or anything along those lines, and to physically see it in person on a video. And I know there are still some cards out there that video doesn't do justice.
Mm-hmm.
That's always going to be the case until you physically have something in your hand. Sometimes you can't. That's the only way that you can fully appreciate something. But on the flip side, at least something tangible, somebody's holding it and able to show it.
Mm-hmm.
It still can pick up some of what you're trying to convey in your words as you're showing it off. And that says something about just what you bring to the table, so to speak, and what you consistently share. It doesn't have to be the best player. Who gives a shit? When you're talking about something that, is a case hit in the 90s compared to a case hit now, you're talking two different things.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I guess I like, in a sense, Panini's at least tried to bring it back. I wish they would do a little more with it, because what is the? I don't even think it was a case hit, but if they would have done it as a case hit, that was it a Boomtown or like football or Kaboom, like those. That's cool. I enjoy those. I've got a few of those because again, it's something a little different. It's not ultra limited, but at the same time, it's something that you're not going to find in every pack.
right.
And I know they've got something this year in the score football. It's like the lenticular Sportflix type deal.
The motion stuff.
They're supposed to be like the case hit. And again, I think the first time I saw one, Chris had busted a box for Cards Infinity or somebody on there. They ripped through a break. And I thought, okay, I'm going to look these up and have this. And again, because it's not something that I necessarily care about, I looked at it, I think maybe 2 days in a row. I tried to look them up, see what was there. And I haven't looked at it since. And I mean, Score's been out for what, a good month and a half now. Would I like to pick one or two of them up? Sure. Would I like to spend $70 on a Score insert from 2020?
No.
Would I like to spend $70 on like an artist proof or something out of like the hockey realm where the artist proofs sell very strong? Like a Pinnacle artist proof of WAS sold for I think like $55 the other day.
Which amazes me.
Which I'm like, would I rather pay it for that? Or would I rather pay for a Zeke Elliott insert in 2020? I'm going to have to pick Patrick Waugh 10 times out of 10. And I mean, I'll pay that $60 or whatever eventually, but at the same time, that's where I'm like, okay, and this is when my mind really starts, I won't say battling, but when your mind starts having like internal conversations, which probably isn't good to put out there, but you're thinking, okay,
We all have them, Dave. Anybody who's here, I'm sorry. I talk to myself, and I have those conversations all the time. And anybody who claims otherwise is full of shit.
I've done the one where I'm like, okay, you're looking back at the stuff from the 90s. Let's say anything under like 150, with the exception of the Crusades to 250, they command some pretty good money still. I mean, it's you find the right players, you're paying a premium. So I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, okay, the Brodeur from 97, 98 goes for 60. It's like, peachy platinum, whatever, to 50. That's like $25. Should I start dipping in there? But I'm like, and that's where the list is. It's like, I've got to cut it at the 0304. If I was at a show, if I saw that for $20 or 25 at a show, and I said, "You want 20 for that? Would you take 20?" And he said, the seller says yes. That's one thing, because I for whatever reason it is, at a show I can justify and rationalize. Okay, it's not one, but I love the design. It's a gold, whatever, to 50. It looked cool. In 20 years, guess what? This will be that one that's in the 90s. So when I bought it for 20 now, not thinking of an investment perspective in the way that I'm going to flip the card, but an investment perspective where I at least want my funds to go to something that's going to have some room for growth. Thinking of that, and I mean, I do that so often. It is just, if you have like a movie theater in my brain, I don't know if anybody'd sit through 5 minutes of it. I really don't. It just, when I start thinking cards, it is lunacy. And that's the 94, 95 artist proof that Vinny's speaking of there. And those are, I think it's not a stated print run, but I think there's 500 of them. And I think they've listed that there might be a little less. Or no, that one's a little more. The 96, 97 select certified is like to whatever 500, and that they think there's like about 150 of them. But again, that's hockey, so there wasn't the demand at any point in time like football had, like baseball had,
Right.
like basketball had. So again, you're going to have production differences, or the quantities are going to be different of the product produced. But again, at the same time, that was one of the first ones I think I tried to go after for WOB. I lost it for $99 on bids.
The artist proof.
Yep. And that was, I'm glad I did, because that was a huge eye opener. Like, okay, take a step back, we sit down a little bit and reevaluate. I'm thinking, okay, 45, that's going to be a bid that rocks their world. Oh man, that was doubled up and blown out of the water.
Well, and what's interesting, specific to that, let's say, artist proofs on the football realm, a lot of those don't fetch near that.
No.
The best player possible during that time frame don't come anywhere close to that.
No.
But the fact that hockey does, but on the flip side, that has to do with the we'll call it the increased rarity.
Mm-hmm.
For whatever reason, the manufacturer decided to, okay, we'll do 500 for football, but yet we're gonna change the stated print run to 200 for hockey. Well, when you're talking about stated print runs of 500 to 200, ultimately changes the ratio of how frequently they can be pulled in the product. So then that, of course, increases the rarity aspect, which then I could understand why something would sell for as high as what it does. Artist proofs for football, most people you can pick up, my guess, I can only speak from like a Terrell Davis perspective because, that's who I always look for, but most likely for under $20
Mm-hmm.
for anybody that was, that's Barry Sanders, that's Brett Favre, that's John Elway, that's Dan Marino during that time span in which those were like your superstars. So that just amazes me. But then again, rarity does dictate sometimes what people are willing to pay for something. And since hockey was always a little bit different when it came to stated print runs or even the differences in some of the insert sets compared to, baseball and football,
Mm.
that does change the collectability of some of those cards though too, which makes sense. I mean, I get it. Supply and demand has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
So
I think the only artist proof I've seen, I was looking at I still look at like the Favre 95, 96, 97, 98. That'll be a search that I do like once a week. There's I think a checklist with him or 96 score, him, Marino, and I don't know. There's 4 players. I want to say Emmett and Barry. I don't know. I don't remember. And that thing went, I want to say for over like 45, $50. I just looked it up too, Vinny, just to double check.
one a box.
Yeah. And again, they're nice looking cards. I mean, it's you have the regular pinnacle, but then on the name and then the team, and then down on the bottom you got the little foil artist proof tag. But yeah, it's not like it's anything earth shattering and innovative, but again, they're very nice looking cards. But yeah, I've picked up a Zenith. What is it, 97? I think the artist proof for Favre, and that was just a hair over $10. 95 Sport Flicks, I think was like 8 or 9. Again, and it's a 1 per box parallel, and there's everybody in the set is usually included in that. So I mean,
But when it's a 200 card set, you're talking about, 200 boxes in hopes that you get your guy.
yeah, you're not pulling like a Yatiel Green or a Alex Van Dyke or Dino Filia or somebody like that. You're hoping for the All Stars, the Pro Bowlers, and the Hall of Famers, and a lot of times you weren't guaranteed that because mine, I bought a few of the packs of 95, 96 Pinnacle Hockey. Up here, I did get an artist proof, but it was Huey Krupp. He played for the Avalanche for their run of championships and success in the 90s after they moved from Quebec. But I'm like, that's not the guy I really wanted to pull out of the pack. I beat the odds, but I'm like, that's great. Huey Krupp. Nobody gives a shit. But again,
Well, that was always, that's the thrill of the hunt and hoping to be able to get, somebody big.
yeah,
But it's the odds are always against you in those situations.
the wax prices. I try not to even go to that part of the world because it seems like every week that stuff it's ridiculous. Like the Mosaic, you mentioned that before. Those were what, $600, $700 for a box.
Oh, is that what they are? I haven't bothered to even pay attention.
They jumped, and I don't know why. Because it's the Panini Prism, sort of like flagship for them. I don't know. It's
Something. Let's not go down that rabbit hole tonight because
no.
it's. And to be brutally honest, if I actually, since I don't do the grocery shopping and I don't go searching for retail stuff by any stretch of the imagination, if I happen to go into a Walmart or a Target and they happen to have Mosaic, it would be hard not to pick some of it up, for the simple fact I haven't busted a pack of anything in forever.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and that's before all of this shit started to where everything just like has gone through the roof. And some of this I just don't get. I mean, I get it, doesn't, but at the same time, I don't get it because shit just doesn't make sense right now.
No, not at all. And then I'll get to the last one for our
scarcity affect your list. Well, there was also another topic I thought that you had listed.
Oh,
You can at least throw it out there, so we may not get to this one. Collector etiquette. Boy, can that open up some can of worms, especially with some interaction with some people. So we may end up having to save that one for next episode. Although typically I know, we're just a little over 2 hours or whatever. But knowing that Dave does have to get up early, and I haven't eaten dinner yet, by the way.
no, I'm good.
I have my Mickey D's.
With some chicken strip. That's been sitting right in front of me, so I'm like,
Yeah, I have some Mickey D's that my wife went and picked up, hoping that she would get back before we went live. But so it's hard for me to respond to this one because my list, so to speak, my spreadsheet, my checklist for a lot of the stuff that I'm focusing on now doesn't provide scarcity unless it's something that's serial numbered. And during that time, there's a lot of things in which serial numbering was a lot less frequent.
Mm-hmm.
It was there, but only in the later 90s did you start seeing serial numbering become a mainstay, so to speak. It can impact the list, especially if I know something is in fact a one per case type situation. So therefore, especially if it's a need, if it's something to fill a gap and it's a need, scarcity does hold a precedent, but it doesn't always supersede everything because it really does boil down to what you're willing to pay at the end of the day for something like that. And, trying to ensure as a collector that you're staying within your means to avoid buyer's remorse and stuff along those lines. It's almost like a loaded question. If you look at it in its entirety,
Mm-hmm.
because for somebody who focuses specifically on one player, scarcity is always going to be a driver.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, usually it's captured within your list or your checklist as a need requirement type situation. Does that make sense?
When I think of your list, I think of the what was it? It was like classics 02, 03. Did you get was it Chicago, the National, or the Spring Show? One of those ones numbered to 5 that wasn't notated as such in the list you just got from that collection. But when you flipped an elite, maybe.
Yeah, it was like an elite status or an elite aspirations, one of the two.
Mm-hmm.
And it was highlighted in the spreadsheet from the owner.
Yep.
of being included, but yet it was, of course, the more rare version, and which, like I said, was a surprise. I would have been happy with the other one, but I was truly, stoked with the one number to 5 because it was one of those that was unexpected. It even goes back to 2 years ago with the playoff zone gold
Mm-hmm.
that was numbered to 5 that I had no freaking clue because I didn't have pictures or anything. That was one in which I didn't have pictures or anything else. I was going based off of a listing
Mm-hmm.
type situation.
I know the most wanted Josh Johnsons I've got are 2 101s. So yes, that for him it would. I'm glad Berder's not in that run for the cup set, because that probably would be by far my most wanted, where I'd never want to blow the load and spend everything on like a couple, again, cards I wanted, cards that were on a lengthier list of things that really interest me, or the Star Quest Gold. That would be another one that probably go pretty hard after, and that's numbered to 100. It's not to 5 to 15 to 2. It for me, it's I've got players that don't command a lot. The Northcutt, the Amaro, McCown, Collins really doesn't do a heck of a lot. But again, he's got some of the overlaps of Terrell Davis.
Yep.
Some of the 5, the show versions or the aspirations and the status, stuff like that. But they're not commanding stupid amounts of money. Get to this hockey stuff. Waugh had I think mid August had the Star Quest Gold sell for what was it, $850-ish American. So I'm like, okay, I didn't even know it was up because that was one of the rare times I just not looked at Waugh for a week and a half or something. I was just so zoned in for Brodeur and Bledsoe and Martin and then the other guys. So when I saw that, I'm glad I didn't see it because I've probably been dumb enough to try to throw some number on it. But I'm like, at least that gives me a number so I can sit there and reasonably think I like what a Brodeur would go for.
Right.
Do I want to think about that number? No,
Right.
because I know that'd be a bank breaker.
5 to 6 would be my guess.
Oh yeah, and that would be the hope, because if a couple of these guys come out of the woodwork, it could go where that Waugh went. So scarcity to a degree, depending on the card, will drive the list. And that, for me, I don't know. It's an always fluctuating list. The Josh Johnson stuff, the one are always taking precedent because it's a lot of what I need. If there's a 101 out there that I don't have, that's what I need more than something at 25 to 10, because I've got most of that stuff. And then going back, I should make a list because that's what I've got, like 4 of the 10 cards. Or there's a laundry tag out of Ballpark 2009. I think I've got 9 of the 15 out of those sweet spot patches from 2006. 35. I've got 25, 26 of it. There's stuff I don't need that I shouldn't be buying, but I like. But in the same vein, some of the stuff like the precious metals popped of Brodeur, and I got that. That's supposedly to 100. That's not a card to 10. That's not a card to 5. If it was, it'd probably be bumped on the list more, but at the same and within the same breath, that'd probably be a card I couldn't afford because it'd be only to 10 or to 5. So if you look at, again, it goes back to what we've said, the design, if it appeals to you, the serial numbering, if it's within reason, and the price. That usually is the driver on whatever list, fictitious, on paper, whatever I've got. Because if I see a one-on-one Brodeur, like a red label, Topps Gold label or something, somebody's got up for 1,500. I'm like, no. The Mirror Platinum to 59. That's you've got like 1,200, 1,100 best offer, and the best offer he wanted to give was 900. So no, those are just not feasible because again, as much as I'd love to have the card, I don't want to pay that much money, even though I like the player a lot. And that's scarcity drives the list, but common sense usually corrals it back into the correct lane. Usually.
Well, and on the flip side, though, you have lists.
Yeah.
I have a list. So for you, there's a lot more jockeying, so to speak, between,
Yeah.
especially since your main focus and you will always be known, is Josh Johnson. That is always going to trump anything and everything else as long as the funds are present.
Mm-hmm.
So from that perspective, that will always affect your list of anything outside of Josh Johnson. But if you take Josh Johnson out of the mix and you look at the lists for like your hockey guys, it's more a challenging situation, like you alluded to, because what takes precedent type situation in those scenarios? And is it something that you're willing to bet the farm on, up near Lake Michigan to put that, Lake Superior, sorry. Yeah, kiss my ass, Michigan, Superior, Erie, whatever.
Huron, Ontario.
Yeah, so one of them damn lakes up there. If you're willing to bet the farm in something like that, farm, ranch, same thing. Don't correct me, Dave. Farm and ranch are the same freaking thing. Look up the definition. No, don't, because you'll probably quote me wrong. And in those situations, something that's that substantial, common sense is always, well, okay, not always. Common sense is typically going to take over in something like that. Because for something like that, regardless of the want, you're still going to have a hard time being able to justify something like that when you're talking that. And that's why I always say, precious metal gems are probably never going to be in my future.
Mm-hmm.
I can't, there's no justification there at all.
No. Well, even not at the current prices. You could probably have some sort of meet and greet and sit down with them for dinner and like an hour of beers for less than what they're going for.
Well, and if I could, if I could come up with a trade cash type deal situation, then, maybe it could be something that could be reached.
Mhm.
But, for the prices, it just, graded or not, it's ridiculous. And I'm disappointed. Vinny didn't say anything. I put the hat back on just for you, man.
I don't know if he's on the East Coast, so it might be, about 11? A little after 11 for him. So I don't know if he dips out, because I know I think he sent something on Instagram about saying, I try to stay up for the whole show, but usually by that late second hour that I pick it up the next day. But so it makes it good though. I like the lengthier shows where, again, a lot of these ones I've watched, you watch like an hour, it just seems like it's starting to get going.
Right.
And then they're like, oh, we gotta go. Our time's up. Like, why is your time up?
Well,
Better.
Well, because they've set that precedent, for us. Oh, he's Midwest.
Work.
It's too late to be working, man. That's one thing that I've enjoyed about us, and I don't want to speak for the viewers by any stretch of the imagination. I know even for those that don't make it to the live show, we have quite a few people that actually go back and rewatch,
Mm-hmm.
which, puts a smile on my face, because that means we're at least doing something right. We're putting out good content. We're having good conversations. People want to listen to what we talk about. But at the same time, to set the restrictions, to me, that defeats the purpose, because then you run into situations, let's say like for last week, for instance, we had great interaction. We had great conversation. We touched on nothing related to the topics that we had, which, like we've always said, we don't know what path we're going to take. We have an agenda, but if we don't get to it, we'll bring it up the next time.
Yeah.
That's what makes us different. And no. And I want to think that that's why we have, I'll call them the consistent guys who always watch us, whether it be live or they do the follow up. I know we probably have some viewers that may not respond very frequent or put in the chat very often, which is fine. Oh yeah, he was on fire. That is for damn sure.
I think he's working tonight. I think the Dodgers are at home, so he's probably out there scraping up the field. And
sometimes, we're always going to have competition. I know that one of the, I don't think I may be subscribed to the channel just because it intrigues me. The one that posts all the big polls for the week, whatever. You may or may not know which one I'm talking about, but they post like the big polls for the week, whether it be, and sometimes it's sport focused or whatever. I can't remember what the channel name is, but they were doing a live broadcast tonight, comparing Ja over Zion as it pertains to, value and stuff along those lines.
Ooh,
they're a newer channel, but there are times in which, depending on the title of their video that they post, sometimes I watch it because they focus on the big pulls for the week.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in some of the stuff, if you don't watch all the breakers and things along those lines, which I don't,
no.
It's kind of cool to see some of the stuff that's pulled, and the fact that it's all in one place. So you're not having to go back and watch, this breaker or this breaker. It's all right there. And they put in certain clips and me personally, I think it's a very well done YouTube channel. I mean, I really do. They highlight the breakers. They put the links to the breakers in their description. They post eBay links for some of the bigger pulls. I'll give the guys credit. The guy does a pretty good job. I'm still not a fan of if you like what we're doing, click that like button and subscribe and make a comment. And no, stop.
Yeah.
Stop asking people. That will come naturally.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to plug another channel type situation, hey, go check out, so and so. For those people who still send out care packages from time to time, posting links and stuff, go check out their channel, see what you think. And if you like it, subscribe to the channel, type situation. But those who consistently, hit that like button, no, stop. People will do that naturally if they like your stuff or they feel like they have something to say.
Yeah, if you can resonate to the mass, they're going to reciprocate that and show their love in whatever various ways. But yeah, when people just pander to their audience and hold out their collection plate, put your likes in here, please. Your thumbs up. Please put your ding the bell or whatever. And it's no, just.
I mean, Dave knows I watch his stuff. Dave usually knows that one of the likes on his video is mine.
Yep.
But there are times in which I don't have anything to say at the time in which I watch it, because depending on that situation, I could be on a video call for work, for instance, and I'm just because I have to be there, and I could be having, watching the video type situation. I may not have the volume up. I could be watching because this is not a jab to you, Dave. I typically listen to everybody's video with the volume on, but in certain situations, it's okay, this call is boring. I got to do something else. And yours are always longer. So it gives me something to enjoy. I don't always have the volume on. So from that perspective, I could have your video playing, but I can't take the time to comment. It's no different. I know Dave always watches my videos. I know one of my thumbs up is usually going to be one of his, but he doesn't have to comment all the time because I know he watches it. Anybody.
We've talked enough to each other over the years that we already know what we're going to say. It's
well, and on the flip side,
or that, or you just don't want to listen to me, and I don't.
No, that has nothing to do with it. But on the flip side, nobody should ever feel obligated to post a comment in order for them to show that they're watching their stuff, unless you really have something that you want to share to the person who uploads it. Don't get me wrong. I appreciate the comments. I have a small handful of people that watch my stuff. That's fine. But don't ever always feel obligated that you need to post something for me to know that you watched it. If you're reaching out and trying to broaden your horizons and, subscribe to new channels and things along those lines, that's when you need to utilize the comments to try and build those interactions and those friendships, because that's how that starts. But for somebody like me, I know probably, so my last video I think it has 20 something views. I probably know everybody who freaking watched the damn video. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. But, it's one of those in which I'm also not sitting there going, click that like button, click that thumbs up, make sure you're subscribed. No, I don't like it. I don't get it.
No, it's, and that's where, again, we've talked many a time, probably talked this episode, we'll talk every episode down the road. It's that, or that feeling of community, just, it's there, but it's not as organic. I'd say more so back 10 years ago. Now it's more, and again, we had it back then too. Hey, sub to me, I'll sub to you, stuff, all that jazz. But now it just seems to be so much more of that. If sub, give me that sub, I'll sub back. Or, like, no, just if you like somebody, you like what they're putting out, you like the videos they're making, you like what they're saying, like the video, comment. You don't have to comment on everything. You've said it. But comment on at least one. Just be like, okay, maybe I didn't know Steve. Who the hell's this dude? I'll click on his channel. Oh, he's got a bunch of this stuff. I'll look at his stuff. He made time to at least comment on mine, so I'll do the least I can do as a decent person. Again, that's up for debate amongst several people, but I can at least watch what he's got to show, and if I like it, yeah, I'll hit that subscribe button and ring the bell and thumbs up and comment and Patreon. But yeah, just that's how we've said it. How you'd find people 10 years ago. Like, oh boy, I don't know. Oh, who was the Cowboys fan?
Which one?
There's another
90s Cowboy? 90s Cowboys.
Yeah.
92, 93, 95 Cowboys.
There was him, and then there was like another dude that had a bunch of fours. Jeff, I think. It was like 4244 something.
Oh, yeah.
See? Jeff.
4.
Yeah, and it's like you're looking at these people. What the hell is this? But you'd go, because again, they didn't comment a lot of my stuff. If they did, I remember like, who are these folks? Go look at their stuff. Okay, like start too. I'll subscribe. But now everybody's so into
the money.
Show off the stuff I'm going to flip.
Yep, the money.
Investors. I've got to compare, contrast. That's good if you just want to show people a difference. But I'm going to invest in Ja over Zion because Zion gets hurt and he's just a big dude. Okay, that can be said pretty much right there.
Yep.
You don't need to have a 40-minute episode about something. But that was us back then. I know. Well, I feel like what do we call them now? Boomers. I feel like the boomer, like the old 80-year-old guy, just, I've said it before, get off my lawn. Get off my lawn. I feel like that's so often where I'm like, none of this makes sense, even to just like a logical, decent human standpoint, where you try to build up community, you try to build up relationships, and others just are like, I want to use you until I get 1,000 subscribers, and then guess what? Fuck you.
Well, I'm a lot more selective these days pertaining to, certain individuals that I will go like subscribe to their channel. And, it's because of select few individuals in which I still watch said videos that open my eyes to other individuals, so to speak. And it's because I've taken the time to watch a few of the videos type situations. Like, you know what? All right. I'm not a baseball guy or I'm not a hockey, regardless of the situation. It's to show that support. And not saying that at some point in time, I may comment on a video or so because I actually feel like I have something to say to try and, create some sort of foundation for communication and things along those lines. I'm very selective of when I comment. You go years ago, I responded to almost every comment that was posted on my video, and the people that I watched, I almost felt obligated to post a comment. And for whatever reason, I finally kind of realized that they know that I'm going to watch their stuff. I don't have to comment for them to know that I'm watching their stuff.
No.
But if I have something to say and to highlight because of something that I watched, then, I'm going to make sure I put forth the effort and say something. Goes back to what I said earlier. Dave always knows anytime he posts a video, I'm going to go watch it. Even if it's the hockey crap that I can't stand to watch, I'm still going to go watch it because it intrigues me because of the differences between, football and the hockey and the baseball type inserts of that era. So there is that education and that I'm intrigued on some of that stuff. So that's the reason why I watch, regardless that I don't collect hockey and I don't collect baseball. There are only certain instances in which I provide a comment. But he knows, like I said, he knows I'm going to watch it. He knows that one of those views is going to be mine. It's no different. I always know Dave is going to be one who watches what I post. And of course, the reason why he knows that I have a video is because hey, FYI, something special in your feed.
Mm-hmm.
Not that he needs me to do that, but, it's one of those in which I know he looks forward, depending on what it is. If we've had conversations of what I've picked up and what's coming in, because I don't spoil everything, just like he doesn't spoil everything to me. There's that anticipation of, oh shit, well, what's going to be in the video? What's he going to show? And that's kind of where the poking at Dave comes between the two of us is, because he always gives me shit about not posting enough. And it's like, okay, well, you know what? Hey, I posted my video for the month. Make sure you go watch it, type situation. But, like I said earlier, the wife's going out of town. I've already got 96 pulled out of the boxes. It's queued and ready to go to record. And with her being out of town, there's a good possibility. Oh, there's Carlos.
There's always more hockey, Carlos. Believe me,
there will definitely
at this point.
there will be more for the Terrell Davis PC Showcase that will be coming soon. So for those who have watched the first one, there are more to follow, and they will get gradually longer. I think through 2000, they will gradually get longer, and then 2001 onward, they'll start shrinking a little bit.
How do you plan on doing that? Because he was what, through 2002 or 3?
Well, he technically through 2001, he played 7 seasons.
Oh yeah.
He had that comeback that didn't last, but those were the prime playing years.
Mm-hmm.
Was through 2001. So 95 through 2001 will be individual years. And I have to go back and look at the calculations that I have for total cards. But I think you'll probably see 02 at least 02 through 04 probably as individual, and then I may start lumping some of the other years together, because if not, they'll only be, 5 or 6 minutes. And I know you like the longer videos, so try to keep that in mind.
What's good? We need more long videos on here. That, and I've harped about that for years. I mean, anybody that's watched any amount of my videos, anybody that's seen comments on, like when Brad 8671, when he has like a Merino or just a bevy of whatever he gets in mail day. I like seeing stuff that's 10, 15 minutes plus. I mean, if it's 20, I'm very excited. Michael, the still not yet rated. Joey, Birdcat 8. When those two guys are like 25, 30-minute videos, I am stoked. When you've got a long one, stoked. Carl or Pepino Man would have a good comment with that one. You have a long one. Just because, again, when you have the short video, 95% of the time, I'd say, when somebody has that short video, let's say they've got more than the one card. Even if it's a one card acquisition, like let's say I showed that Ripken. I could talk about that for like 10, 15 minutes.
Yep.
When you have 6, 8 packages come in, let's say you have like 15 cards, you can rifle through those in between 5 and 8 minutes. It just, to me, could be completely incorrect. That's fine. But from my vantage point, it's you don't truly value the cards. You like getting them in because it's something you got, but it's just gonna be a check on the list or whatever, and you don't want to take the time to inform people. Maybe you don't have the information, maybe you don't have the knowledge. But I like hearing about the cards. I like hearing stories about cards. We've all said that. Especially if it's something you come across you didn't expect. A show, a friend, a trade night, eBay mislabeled auction, whatever the case may be, you busted a pack, pulled it. I want to hear about that card. I don't want to just see it. Here it is. And then put it on the side. Well, you barely put it up there. You don't need to sit there and spend 10 minutes showing me like every crevice and nook and cranny of the card, but at the same time, hey, I got this card because the price was decent, player I collect, rare, the design, I just needed it. But you had so many people, even way back, and I had a lot of those short videos too, but I'm harking back to my internet connectivity. I was trying to go to the library with how many people on the internet there trying to get a video through before the library closed. So I had to sort of shuffle through a lot of stuff quickly.
Right.
But I still wanted to get stuff out so people knew I was still active and I was just getting stuff out and showing stuff off. But there's so many short videos. I know you could do it like 15 minutes cap for some of these guys.
10 minutes.
Alan and Denny were always two of the ones that would like 958 was the max, it seemed. Why YouTube had it at the time, whatever device they were using, it's pretty bogus, but I don't need 15 minute videos for everything, but I do like to see and hear people ramble and ramble. But I also like to hear those people, when they're rambling, at least have something tangible, informative to say. Not that they're just like, "Hey, the sky's blue today." This
Right.
It's like, yeah, thanks for those tips, Einstein.
Well, I mean,
Is water wet? I mean, what's that?
I mean, I could have cut my video in half for part one of the PC showcase.
Yeah,
But at the same time, when you're
at least, and I'll speak specific to, if you're taking the time to do like a PC showcase type thing. Copyright to Sictifer, by the way, since, he's the one who kind of coined that phrase. It adds more value to the content, so to speak, when you talk about the specifics. I didn't talk about everything associated to every card, but the few that I ended up getting in the collection purchase, or stuff along those lines, because it just adds some context to some of the history and the information surrounding the card and so on and so forth. And for those individuals who may or may not know details and specifics during that, realm of collecting and manufacture the various products that were manufactured in those days, it's the whole education. So I'm kind of with you. There's times in which, depending on situations, I'll say I would dread the long videos, but at the same time look forward to spending the time to watch them, because you knew that there was a lot more than just showing of a crap ton of cards and rifling through them with no context or story behind them, so to speak. And that's where some of the other aspects of forming those relationships come into play, because for those individuals that pay attention during those situations, and when individuals get into those deep conversations surrounding a card, a specific card, and the history or the story behind it, it kind of puts you in their shoes to a certain degree, or in their mindset, to where, okay, if I really want to take an opportunity to maybe find something for said individual, taking these additional things into consideration will, blow them out of the water if and when I happen to come across something that I send their way. So it's like a twofold approach in that situation.
Yeah, and you don't see many of those videos unless it's somebody. Ty 4619 has some. Carlos has some. Michael, Joey, myself, you. And then it's mostly like the podcasts or the discussions about like flipping or whatever else. Those are the ones that have the lengthy videos. So again, I'd like to find more out there. I'd like to find people that are fairly knowledgeable, not just trying to pimp their channel or promote something or another. Watch this or watch that. It's again, if I want to watch Sports Cards Live with Jeremy, I'm gonna watch it. I like watching the after hours more. Because again, I like hearing what the industry folks have to say, but I also care more about what fellow collectors have to say, just because while the industry guys have a lot of knowledge, a lot of the insight, which I do enjoy listening to, most of the time, and again, some of them industry guys are collectors themselves. I'd rather have to forge those connections, relationships with the after hour guys, and to have the long videos. I hope more more of them continuously get put out there. But I when you hit like 10 minutes, it's 10 minutes. I'm going long. I'm gonna wrap it up. But like, no, just you went 10 minutes. And you go another 5. So, at some point in time, I'd like to have more people do that. But again, so social media things out there just with pretty slim pickings for YouTube these days for people to invest all their time, effort, and energy making videos. Especially when you can go on Instagram or whatever and go and do it there.
Sorry, I had to run to the bathroom, guys.
Need to break the seal.
Yep. It only happens. I don't know. Sometimes I can go the whole show. Sometimes I can't. Just kind of depends on the situation.
No, it happens. Like, you know, it's young too. It's just, the day gets long, and if you don't take a nap, which I rarely do on the Tuesdays or any day, by the time this time hits, I'm lucky I'm not Ed Bird and off.
Well, that just means I'm at least keeping you on your toes, Dave. I'm not completely boring you with some of my diatribes or soapboxes or anything along those lines. Now, that doesn't mean other people who are watching aren't, like slowly dozing off or anything along those lines. But
shutting off the computer, phone. We've heard this song and dance before.
Well, that's why we try and at least, not fully go down the same rabbit hole sometimes. And that's something that Dave and I both agree on. It's sometimes one specific example I can think of, this film not yet rated in his shit. And this has been some time ago, but it was, I think, damn near a 20-minute video on one card. And I think it was it his Garrett auto? It was somebody huge from
the Earnhardt, because I remember he had a pretty lengthy one on that Earnhardt.
Well, yeah, that had a family history though too, if I'm not mistaken.
That's why I remember it was longer and a good one.
But I was thinking, and I'm pretty sure it was Gehrig, if memory serves me right. But showing one card, but just talking about just the backstory and things along those lines. That just adds more to the context of the video and the appreciation of the card and the build up to what it is. Even though you can see the title, you kind of already have an idea of what it is.
Yeah.
Or who the person is, but you still don't know the card. I mean, because then all of a sudden your mind starts wondering, okay, well, so I know who the heck he's talking about, but damn it, what is it? Show the card, damn it. And then you start getting really engrossed in the story and everything else. And by the time he shows the card, it's like, no, keep with the story.
Yeah. I want to hear more stories. Come on. Who cares about the card now?
Yep. And that's why we've always brought up the fact that, the cards are what brought us together, that like the fact that we all are involved in the same hobby. Mm-hmm. Regardless of the sport, we are all in the same hobby. Friendships are the key The cards are the bonus. And if you think the opposite, you know, it's about the cards and the friendships are the bonus. I may question the reason for, you know, being involved in some of this, because to me, and I've always early on, and I'll be the one who thought the other way early on when I first joined, and I'll be the first one to admit it. You know, and I've shared these conversations with a few of the individuals that I still chat with to this day. My reason for joining YouTube was not building the friendships. It was to bring visibility to my eBay to sell cards, another outlet type situation. And if friendships came along, that's great, but that wasn't the focal point.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized real fast that friendships are really the important part of this. The cards are the bonus. That's what brings us together. That's the common link. Just saying.
Yeah, and that's like we said. It doesn't seem. It is much less about building friendships and then building others up now than it is about me. How can I build my brand, my name, my collection, whatever my fancy graphic videos with all these parts and whatever else about investing, and it's more about how can I become the popular kid in school instead of, hey, if I am the popular kid, how can I help these other guys that maybe aren't as popular, maybe help them at least feel like they're popular, and guess what? I can at least give back to them in that regard. And then you know what? A kinship might be formed that I never expected instead of what can you do for me?
Yep. No, nobody said anything about investing.
It's all we've been talking about, 3 hours investing.
Yep. And Ty, and that's the thing. You know, you've put yourself out there, and you know, as long as you feel good about it, that's all that matters. And you're doing you. You're being you. And that's what technically this is supposed to be about. I mean, if I'm not, I think I've got 3 videos in my watch later list of yours that I haven't had a chance to circle back to yet. But, you know, it's you being you. And for anybody out there who can't appreciate you just being who you are, then bottom line is, who gives a shit?
Tell them to get fucked.
You know. So and that's the thing. I'm hoping that I can build additional friendships. I'm not gonna lie. That's, you know, really to a certain degree. I mean, that's what the platform is supposed to be for. At least what I feel the platform is supposed to be used for. We all, like I said, share the same hobby type situation. But be true. Be who you are. And in Dave's case, it's the burping, farting guy who does it in all his videos.
Once in a while.
We're going to have to start the count all over again. The first 4 episodes, there was not a single burp.
Well, there just weren't very audible burps.
Well,
It was
that's
more like a polite
what
Thanksgiving dinner table. Cover your mouth ones instead of
that's what I'm getting at, Dave. But it's be true. Be you all the time. Be 100% authentic all the time. And for those people who are willing to put forth the effort, you're going to build friendships. That's just the way that it is. Regardless if you're off the wall, you're a little, different. I'll use the politically correct word, different. But it's no different. Dave is not normal. Dave is different. But,
Some people say I'm special.
well, other people could say you may ride the short bus. But, at the end of the day, who gives a shit what the majority of people say?
Most people say I should be wearing a helmet.
In
Oh,
certain situations, Dave, I could understand why that would be a valid comment. But
when I'm sleeping.
well, and that's the other thing. We're freaking grown ass individuals. I don't want to. I almost said grown ass men. At least in the room right now, that's in fact the case for those who were chatting. But I don't want to take away from the small percentage of women that actually enjoy this hobby too, and they are out there. We've had quite a few over the years. We're all a little strange. We're grown people collecting cardboard with sports people on it, and we're actually paying money for this. So to a certain degree, we aren't normal in the first place. Regardless,
We're super happy if we get a patch card with dirt. We got a laundry card, basically. It's like, oh, you tell that to average schlub that walks down the street. I got a patch card of Mark Rippon that's got dirt on it. Who the fuck is
huh?
Mark Rippon? What are you showing me? They're calling up the mental hospital.
Yep. But that's that's what brings us together. Is like I said, is the shared hobby. We're all a little off our rocker to a certain degree. Spending hundreds of dollars on freaking cardboard with you know lines and serial numbers and signatures that we hope are real, that are supposed to be guaranteed to be real, or game used memorabilia. I mean, we can't prove it that it is. I mean, I can go roll around in the dirt and get some grass stains on a jersey and call it game used. I could have done it in my flag football game for all I know, but it just we're all a little off our rocker a little bit, but that's okay. I love it.
Yeah, if people come off as you can pinpoint something's wrong. Like when you look at Mark Stoff, investor, collector, dealer, buyer, trader, seller. You look at him and you're like, yeah, there's something really wrong. I mean, there's like about 7 chromosomes that haven't been found in him yet. There's me. I mean, I look like I just crawled out of a cave. When you're looking at these people and you're like, but they seem like they like what they're doing. I'm an asshole at a lot of times, but it's usually to certain people or certain sects, not sex, sects, of people, and that are just trash, in my opinion. But they seem like good people. They seem like they like what they're doing. They seem to engage with people. That's like, okay, I can look past that he looks like he's been living in a dumpster for the past 10 years. I can look past the fact that I don't know what a razor is, or if you see the stink of what deodorant is. People can look past that because, again, I know a little bit about cards, and for the most part, I'd say I'm well spoken. I mean, if I get somebody like gooses me, and then I start dropping the f bomb left and right, which on very rare occasions happens, I might think otherwise, but it's like you can be the odd duck as long as you're your authentic odd duck self. People will at least accept you in this house. When you pretend to be somebody you're not, doesn't matter if you've got a ranch or a fake Hall of Fame, people will sniff you out very quickly.
Yep.
And you can jump ship to another channel and do whatever you want. It won't matter because they know how shitty of a person you are and what your character actually is. No matter how many times and whatever videos you have, you say that you're a great person, you love people, whatever other artificial bullshit you can spew about yourself. That people, decent people that can read people, even the people that can't read other people the best, can read bullshitters a mile away.
Well, it's one thing to have opinions, but when you start pushing said opinions on others to try and force them to believe your opinion is an issue. That's why they're called opinions.
Mm-hmm.
You have opinions to create conversation, but when you start trying to get overly defensive to prove your opinion to be a fact, that's a problem. Because then it's not an opinion, you're trying to push what you think to be fact on other individuals. Just saying.
And this is greed. With the Brandon Cooks to 99, that was just greed. And that's what happens when, and again, it can be somebody new, it can be a stalwart that's been around for a number of years. You never know when that switch is going to flip on anyone. Money will dictate all in that person's mind. But no, nobody.
You know what I was referring to when I said that, though, Dave.
Yes, there's been a few instances of that. I know it's been. What's that? 16 NT for the Cooks. Melbourne was like 09.
Well, I know. I was referring just to the individual, not the time frame. That's why I asked, did somebody pull that? You
Oh
know.
yeah, that was like 2016, and like there's a break. I think when NT came out in April, and so no, again, I'd have to go back and watch the video because you can sort of see what it is, but you don't know what the next card is. But you can tell he's like excited, but he doesn't show the card. It's like it's a Brandon Cooks to 99. It's like nobody's that excited for
Yeah.
a Brandon Cooks to 99 ever. Not even Brandon Cooks' mother cares that much about that card. So yeah, there's something that huge shenanigans there, and I know I've seen it some other times too, where you can tell there's like a delay in the going through cards, and oh, I got a phone call or I got this thing. No, you pulled something fucking massive, and you just don't want to show it.
Well, and that if you think about it, though, that's why so many of the breakers these days have multiple camera angles.
Yeah.
So, and so many people watch them live these days. They would be called out so fast if there's a glitch in the live video feed and stuff along those lines in those situations. So, because back in the blog days, there was only the one camera angle and stuff along those lines, and people found ways to cheat the system and everything else.
Yeah.
It's for those that's their main thing, that's all they do is break. I mean, you have 2 and 3 camera angles sometimes in some of those videos if you happen to rewatch any of them, and it's like it'd be very hard to trick. Yeah. So,
But I think with that, we're gonna wrap it up for the week. We both haven't eaten supper. I've got to wake up at 4 for work. Steve's got to wake up, I'm sure, semi-early.
Well, not as early as you.
That's one thing I've never. Again,
I did it a few times.
it's
I
the
did it.
pros.
Yeah, I did it a few times.
Like when Danny would have his, and it'd be like $3 for a team or $4. And whatever, just buying a pack. I'll get in if I get a good team and maybe something hits. That's great. If otherwise, who cares?
GSN, Nick, and his, fairly inexpensive breaks. There were others that did inexpensive breaks. And the reason it's so big time now is because the prices of product is so ridiculous. And it's a cheap way of, if you have a budget of X dollars, so to speak, for cards, sometimes it's worth that risk because it's, high risk, high reward if you get something huge. And that's just because of, that's the market, the way the market is right now. But I understand thinking like that too, because it's not something you don't physically get to do it. And that's the fun in a lot of it. But, for a lot of people, that's their only option. And they don't have issues with, dealing with that risk type situation. I mean, I bought boxes from Chris at Cards Infinity and had them posted on video. Why? I don't know, because I would have preferred to open them myself. But it was something that was new and different. Personal preference, I guess.
Well, that and flawless. It's not like we're going to go and buy and try to press our luck with a briefcase of that. Transcendent. Not everybody can afford $23,000. Some of that high-end stuff, I get. I mean, would I get into it? No. But I understand trying to take let's say an Immaculate Football 2017 when it came out. Whatever, how many, $10 or 10 spots for whatever it was, like $60 a spot. I understand doing that instead of buying the box, getting skunked with the worst rookie you can get, and be like, shit, I just dropped $600 and I got like 60 back maybe.
Yep.
If you drop 60 on it and they pull a Mahomes RP number 58 of 99 and you have the 8 spot, then you're looking like a genius.
Yep.
So, I mean, I get it with the higher number or higher dollar stuff that everybody's not going to be able to afford. Just to have that chance. It's, again, like a lottery ticket. It's a chance.
Well, now everything is team-based these days because of the varying price disparity within because of certain players dictating higher premium. You're seeing a lot of breakers now doing team breaks and, spending almost the same amount of money potentially on a break of a high-end product. You're paying almost that same kind of money to get that team in the break than if you would have just bought the product and taken a chance that way and have everything from the break instead of maybe nothing. So it's different. Back in the day, breaks were so different. There wasn't such a thing as a serial number break.
Yeah.
It was, everything was a team break. Everything was random. You had a few combo teams from time to time, or teams would be eliminated, and if something was pulled for said team, then it was random to everybody who was in the break. There's too many different variations these days with the whole break stuff, but that's also because the ridiculous prices for product right now. That's where a lot of it has to do with the fact that
They're so high. Crazy.
But I suppose we need to eat. We're hungry. My stomach's been growling for the last hour. I've heard it, and I don't know if it came across, but it did. Been a couple that sound about as loud as my burps, so it's, I'm smelling chicken fingers or whatever the hell they are. It's getting hungry. And I think we went through some decent stuff tonight. Not earth shattering, but just stuff in the hobby. If you're traversing the path through the hobby, you should at least think about. Again, to figure out some of that stuff and at least be semi. What am I looking for? To have something, not a guide. You just have. I'm blanking on the word. The rare time.
Write it on your calendar, folks.
Yeah, it's escaping me. I can't. I keep wanting to say informed, and it's not the word. Anyway, to have those lists, to have like a guide, have
Foundation.
Those,
you can use it as a foundation.
And just something there that you can go back to and refer to. Again, it's not the most sexy topic out there, but it's something that's really integral part of the hobby that you need to have at some point in time if you want to have any semblance of structure. There it is. Some sort of structure to your collection instead of just being like going into like a ball pit at a kid's birthday party where it's just havoc and chaos. So, any parting thoughts?
Not this time. I'm starving.
Thank you all for joining. Thank you for commenting and chatting throughout the broadcast. Always appreciate it. Any comments, criticisms, critiques, questions, whatever. And you're watching this post-live version, drop a comment below. Like, comment, subscribe.
Shut up. Leave a comment though if there's any questions or suggestions or things along those, or any topics that you'd be interested to cover.
Yeah,
we're always looking for that type of feedback.
Yeah, we're not going to be too proud to not beg, but you got any insight and whatever, let us know. Because again, we're always open to all that. So, I'm Dave. He's Steve. Remember, building friendships is what this is all about. The collection, it's always secondary. Friendships, that's what we're building. Good night, everyone.
Good night, guys.